Hey, hello guys, can you hear me?
Hello, Chris, sir.
Hey, how's it going?
Hey,
Hey,
It's
Chris.
cool. So happy to
Nice.
see you.
Happy to
Hey,
see you
Chris.
guys.
How are you?
It's a full house. I'm doing well, man.
Likewise.
Yeah, I mean, like, as well as we can, right? With this pandemic, this craziness.
Yes.
Like the beard is just taking over, man. I mean, it's just like it's kind of like a rat's nest right now. It's just.
Looks cool on you.
Thanks, man. It's like this is getting out of control. I'm gonna just let it be. It's like let's see.
Yeah,
where it
you're
goes.
getting ready for Christmas, right?
Yeah, exactly. Oh my god. But yeah, man, so I'm glad you guys made it. And it's like it's always exciting to me starting each one of those new courses, and always a little scary too, because it's like you expose yourself a lot. It's like not like not physically. I'm not gonna take my pants off or anything, but it's like you're in front of a lot of artists who are really talented. A lot of times, it's like you get like very talented artists. A lot of you guys are placed in big studios already. It's like there are obviously some students already very talented as well. Some are kind of like trying to start or maybe like migrate from traditional art to digital art. I get like lots of emails right after the enrollments, saying that, oh okay, I'm a portrait artist, or I'm a clay sculptor, it's like, and I'm trying to migrate. And to me, it's just like thrilling, it's like to have like the work that you guys do before the classes, and then what I see after the classes. It's like if you look at my Instagram, there's a lot of work that I plugged from my students from previous classes. It's like seeing the evolution is really awesome to me. And I think like that's the only thing I can tell you guys, is that I can expose you guys to all the information I have, which might not be, it's like maybe like the correct way of doing a lot of things. It's like I have my own peculiar way of doing things, but I can tell that it actually produces some results. It's like I can see my students actually improving and getting better. And then this is going to be kind of like I would say like the ignition, and then from that point on, with all those concepts and the way that I do those things, I think you guys gonna feel more comfortable over time. It's like to just it's like, oh yeah, I like the way that he did that, but I think I can mix with some technique I already know and push this even further. It's like, because I can tell you that none of my work in the past, 8 courses, I cannot consider any of them finished. I don't like anything I finish ever, right? And then I always plan of like revisiting, and I never find the time. So for example, like during this break that I had between the past class and this one, instead of like really working on something, I kind of started working on a new base mesh. I think that's the only project I have right now. But I didn't do much sculpting. I was like just trying to relax and get my head out of this whole thing. And then in one hand is good, because I kind of like I feel like refreshed, so I'm kind of like excited to start this, right? And the other hand, I'm a little bit rusty every time. But it's just like a matter of just starting, and then you're like, oh, okay, yeah, I remember everything, So so you're gonna see a lot of things that I do. I'm gonna show some of the work, and today is gonna be kind of like more of a relaxed class. This is just an introduction. So we're gonna be doing setting up our Maya file, all the settings that we need like for the next steps. And my approach is always like this. I start with a sketch. So we're gonna start doing a little sketch today. And during this whole week, we're gonna be sketching, right? We're gonna find whatever you want to sculpt. I mean, I don't have like an assignment, right? But I encourage you guys to find like an interesting character. It's like someone. In my case, my preference is like people who actually inspired me somehow. It can be like another artist, like a some model, whatever. It's like it can be something that's more related to the way that the person thinks, or it can be something that's more like about aesthetics. It's like if it's an interesting facial structure, it's like with it's like some deformity or something like that, or someone who was just like beautiful, woman, or it's like different types of ethnicities. This kind of stuff interests me as a sculptor, digital sculptor, because it's just like a little challenge. Every new thing is another challenge, right? Like the way we approach the types of skin are very different. It's like depending of the age and the types of skin as well. So yeah, it's going to be an exploration. and it's always risky for me. I'm always like setting myself up for failure, in a way, because I have like a subject I want to approach, but I have no idea where this is going to end ever, right? So I'm going to be exploring this model with you guys. And then during this whole week, as I model more and more, until Thursday. And Thursday, we're going to be basically like getting this concept that we are working on, this sketch in ZBrush, and we're going to be transferring this into a base mesh, right? So I expect you guys to have a base mesh already. If you don't, I have one that I provide, but I tell you, it's a very simple model. It's like it's not something. Don't have great expectations. Was kind of like a Z remeshed, so it's not like a perfect topology or anything. It's something you can definitely work with. It has UVs, but I would say like either you can tweak it. It's like add some more edge loops in there, or have another model that it's cleaner. It's like I believe you guys can make a cleaner model. I think like in the next 2 months or so, I should release like a base model that I'm creating right now that's actually optimized for HD geometry. So it has the right amount of UVs, and the topology is not like perfect for animation. Can be used for animation, but it's not perfect for animation. But it's really good for sculpting. So that's gonna come in a couple of months, I think. Like I'm still working on it, but I'm gonna start by sharing my screen in here. Let's just do this. Let's see, which one is that? This one. Let's see. Let me just see what screen I'm in here. Let's see. ZBrush is right there. Okay, let's try this. Okay, my ZBrush. Let's see if you guys can see my screen right now. Can you see my ZBrush right there?
Yes.
Yep.
Awesome.
Yep.
Okay, cool. All right, so I'm gonna start by just like introducing a few things here. So this is just it's like this is like the 9th class I'm teaching right now, and I started actually. This was the first one. I can show you this. Let's see. Where is it? Right here. So this is the first model, right? Like was a Stan Winston one that I did a couple of months ago. And so I started with this one, which was the first class. I had no idea where this would go. So it got to a point that I like the model, but the likeness is not quite there. So I have to go back eventually and just like tweak things. I was having trouble with refraction for the glasses, for example. It's something we have to think about. Everything, since we're going to be relying on Arnold, it has to be physically accurate, right? Because in this case, yes.
Sorry.
It seems that you are not sharing your screen. You're sharing just ZBrush right now.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Thanks for letting me know.
Yeah.
Let's see.
Yeah,
Let
we
me
just see
go.
our ZBrush.
Yeah. Let's see. Let me just get back to this. Your screen sharing is paused. What is that? Let's see that. Let's try again. So white. It's funny because I have like this white board in here. Huh. That's so weird. Let's see.
It worked for a second and then it went stay.
Yeah, it's because I was just inside of ZBrush, right?
Yeah.
It's funny that I have just like whiteboard available and then show all windows. Let's see this one, if I have anything here.
Yeah, it's if you show the whole screen. So there's like sharing individual applications, and then there's sharing your entire screen.
Yeah, like the individual applications, they are kind of like below in here. I can see like the little list, but normally the screen itself was at the top, and I'm not seeing this as an option here in my Zoom. I just like I updated my Zoom today, and that's. Let me just double check this, guys. Just a second. Let me just log in here. Just hold for a second. And let's see. Zoom. Yeah, you see, like I tested this stuff yesterday, but without having people in front of me, it's hard to see this. I hope I don't spend too much time doing this.
Things always go wrong once you go live.
Right? Yeah, but I mean, like for the most part, they go smooth until like there's some bug and then Maya and ZBrush crash on me. But for the most part, they work. Let's see. Security. Let's see if there is anything to do with those settings. For let's see, security.
Chris,
Yes.
I'm having a hard time getting in on my computer.
Oh, really?
Said sign in to join, and then when I do, I try. It asks for a email and password.
Uh-huh.
And I put in the password that I used on the website, and it's not going in.
So who is talking right now?
West.
West. Okay. Let me just check here. So you post something on the chat in there? No. Okay.
No,
so
I'm on my phone right now.
you're in your phone?
Yeah, I'm trying to
Okay.
get my computer going.
Yeah, that's weird. Let me just do something like I'm gonna do something temporarily here, which is gonna
Sure.
be I'm gonna remove some of those restrictions and see if that helps. Let's see. Let's do an edit here.
Wes, it might be that you're not going into Zoom. You're trying to get into the fly on the wall, but I signed into my account to get in.
No, I'm going into my Zoom account unless. Well, it wouldn't know about the one I use with my school, right?
Yeah, that would be the one you use. Yeah. Let me see if I can find here for you. So let's see.
Did you try to use the correct meeting ID?
Yeah, I just used the one in the email.
Oh yeah, me too. And I managed to join here on my PC. That's a bit weird.
It is weird. Let's see, Wes.
Hey, Wes, I actually had to just make a new Zoom account because I never use Zoom, and it allowed me to log in.
Yeah, I've had one for a while though, because I teach online.
Let's see. Settings. Okay, so
If my
recording.
school account works.
Record on local computer, local recording. Okay.
Oh, there it goes.
You managed to get it?
Yeah.
Oh, cool. So do you use Zoom as well when you do your meetings? Oh, he's not here.
Yeah, I think you joined with the PC.
I had to use my Zoom meeting account.
Yeah, I'm just wondering about this. The reason why I'm not able to share my entire screen, because I never seen this before, and I'm doing this for what, a year and a half.
So you said you just updated Zoom, and I mean,
just hit the share screen button, and it should do it.
Yeah, that's what I was doing. But the thing is, like, it shows just whiteboard, and then all the screen, basically like the windows that I have open as options in there, but not like the full screen for some reason. So I'm curious about what's going on with it.
Sir, I think it's the one with the update. Yesterday, I had a call with a friend, and it showed the same problem. Like, you can share a particular app if you want to. It doesn't allow to share the entire screen. It gives you options. It happened just yesterday because previously when I used it, it allowed to share the entire screen. But this time around, it was giving me options to share Maya or, share a particular application.
Oh, that's not good at all. How are we going to do this? Oh, let me see. There is an option. Let's see. Full screen mode. Size, let's see. Scale. Maximize window. Scale to fit. Oh, man. Automatically share desktop. Let's see if that helps. My share this. Let's show all sharing options. Okay, there is an option here. Show all sharing options for both of them. And then there is an advanced in here. Let's see. Screen sharing. Screen capture mode. Share without filtering. Okay, let's try this way. Let's see what happens if I get anything different here. Nope, just whiteboard, man. Let's see what happens. Like, yeah, see, like whiteboard. It's like makes no sense. Thank you, Zoom. Jesus.
Even I was surprised yesterday.
Yeah, what's going on, man? How are we gonna do this? I mean, like, I need to share my entire screen.
I think there'll be an option. I just didn't figure it.
Oh man, why do they have to do this?
Can you just share like what you want to show for images first and then just switch?
Yeah, I guess I'm gonna have to keep switching, man. It's just gonna be kind of like a waste because it has an option here: window size, screen sharing, full screen mode, or maximize window, side by side, desktop, show green board. Let's see if there's a.
Does it have 3 options? Because I'm looking on Google and I don't know if it's the old directions, but it says share, share your entire screen, specific window, or whiteboard. Is just the word share or like?
Yeah, it has like share screen, but then at the top, I can actually share this. Oh, I don't think I can share the window itself here, but yeah, it just says like whiteboard at the top. And then I have like at the bottom, just all the windows that I have open right now, you know, but I don't have like a full screen.
Oh,
Guys,
it's
that
showing
sucks.
it one application at a time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Zoom sharing full screen.
Updates are the worst.
Right, like he said. I mean, like it was from yesterday, right? Like
yes, the new update. The new update. This is a feature with the new update. Like just yesterday, I updated it for the class, and I saw that this was completely whole new stuff.
how am I gonna do this, man? Well, let me just share whatever I have in here. Let's try that. It's gonna be hard to do this by switching windows. So that's like, can you see the window here?
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I mean, like that's all I can do. I cannot. If I open the image, all of a sudden it's not the same thing anymore. So yeah, this is just some of the stuff I did. You know, it's like over the last months. You know, but none of them is completely finished. You know, it's like I can look at each one of them, but you know, it's like there is always something. It's always like a little challenge. You know, it's like sometimes I look at the old ones and I'm gonna see, for example, like the peach fuzz is not quite there. You know, it's like either it's like too sparse and too long, or something that's like too thick. You know, it's like, so each one of them there's always a tiny little challenge. So I would say, you know, after this course is over, probably going to take me another 2 weeks just to get something that I feel comfortable about, like posting as something that I can call kind of finished, right? So I don't expect you guys to have anything finished straight away. Normally, my students, they take a couple of weeks or even months after the class is done, you know, to really polish it and then feel comfortable about, posting. And yeah, it's the kind of stuff that takes a long time. You know, it's like there are so many steps involved. It's very cool because you get involved, you know, it's like in the, you can start seeing the character coming to life and everything. And it's a really cool feeling, you know, but it's not something that we can actually say like, oh, it's going to be easy, you know, it's like going to pop, but it's going to be a cool challenge for sure. But, you know, I am actually really concerned about this sharing thing. If you guys on the side in there, you can do like any type of Google search for me while I explain this. There's other things here. I can share my Maya screen and then go from there, you know, but
I'm breaking into the mainframe.
Oh man, please do that. I'm sorry, man. It's just like
no, it's okay. We'll all try to Google it and
yeah. And I'm gonna share my Maya here.
Hey Chris.
Yes.
So I think if Zoom doesn't work, we can use Google Meet.
Yeah, the cool thing about the Zoom meeting is that I have everything set up. You know, it's like all my schedules are there, and I have all the settings that I use. You know, it's like there's the watermark and all this stuff. I mean, like my classes, man, in the past they got pirated like straight away, and then unfortunately you have to add those, you know, those things kind of like it's like I need to have certain things in place, you know, unfortunately.
But whatever Zoom, is there like a revert button to the previous?
Chris, sir?
Yes.
Yeah, I am on the Zoom website right now. It shows like you have an option to share your entire desktop and share a specific application window. But I'm not sure if it's available like to share the entire desktop or not. Because,
no, yeah, this part is not available for me for some reason, you know. Let's see if I have anything else here stealing the focus or something, you know. But I don't think so. I think it's like you said, you know, it's like something that was changed the last update. Because before I you know, it's like yesterday I was here online, and then Gloria was here, and she thought it was yesterday, the class, and I was able to actually log in and see things in there all normal. And as soon as I disconnected, I actually decided to, okay, it's offering to update, so let's update and let's see what happens, right? And then all of a sudden things are not working. But I'm really bummed with this, man. Because
I'm trying to live chat with Zoom, see if they'll answer that question.
Oh man, that would be great. Yeah.
Okay.
Let's see. I'm just like looking here, poking around the settings and seeing if they added anything. Let's see, schedule meeting. There's so many options, man. They have a ton of options there.
The only setting I'm seeing is the like automatically share desktop when you're animating.
Yeah, yeah.
That's the only one. Yeah. Did you see that one earlier? Like,
Yeah,
that's the only one. Yeah.
I just turned that one on, and to see what if something would happen, you know, and it didn't change anything.
I didn't change anything. Oh my god.
Yeah. So I'm gonna do this. Let's see, share screen. So I have like in my share screen, I have full screen mode turned on, and I have silence system notification when sharing desktop. I'm gonna turn that one off. Let's see if something happens.
Okay.
And I have automatically share desktop and automatically share desktop. And then
Yeah,
I have also the options like show all sharing options, which I can try that as well. Let's see.
Maybe that was something, yeah.
And then there's another option here, use hardware acceleration for sharing screen.
That sounds pretty cool.
Annotation, show green border, I don't need that. There's a couple of things they actually added in here that I don't remember. Let's see, record video during screen, record video during screen sharing. Yeah, I need that, right? Man, all this stuff was supposed to be ready to go because that's what I'm using forever. So let's see.
Yeah, now I can see Maya for a split second there.
Yeah, it was Maya for 1 second.
Yeah, yeah, that's the window I have, you know, shared. So I'm gonna have to do this way today, guys, until I figured it out. So I'm gonna just have to jump like from window to window, I suppose, you know, which sucks, but you know, because I normally drag stuff, you know, it's like, especially if I have references I want to share. But yeah, let's start with this until we find a solution for it. So some of you guys are not familiar with Maya. I mean, like I know like most of you guys sign up for those classes knowing what's going on. But some of you are coming like from different applications and stuff. So basically like this is Maya 2020.2. That's the latest version. If you like subscribe, you get like always the latest version. So that's, I think that's the latest. I didn't get any pop-up with upgrades. And then what I'm gonna do here now, I'm gonna show you, for example, if I try to open anything at this point, you're gonna notice that I'm gonna be going to this. Now that's another question. Did you see the pop-up?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, so the pop-up is working. So anything inside of the application is working. Okay, that's good. Because that would suck if I click something and then shifts the, you know, like the window focus. So it's pointing to this Chris personal projects based mesh scenes here, right? Because I have this set as my as my project window. So the way that Maya works is that you need to set an environment. So every time you save a file, it goes straight to that environment, and it basically like creates the structure for your folders and everything. So you're gonna have to have that set up. So the way it works is like this. That's the part that's gonna suck now because I'm gonna have to share another thing. It's gonna be a pain in the butt. Let's see. So if I show you my project right now, it's gonna be this. So this is what I'm gonna be working on. My initial idea was to sculpt like some kind of like a realistic cartoon for the first time, kind of like I was thinking about this sculpting like Alfred Newman from the Mad magazine, right? That would be fun.
Oh, I thought about that too.
Yeah, it would be a fun project. But at the same time, it's not something like I can consider like something that's completely inspirational to me. And then just looking back, you know, it's like the first painter that I fell in love was Diego Velázquez, right? And Velázquez to me, to this day, I mean, like this is still one of the very best out there back in the day, right? The 1600s. And the cool thing about the Velázquez is that he had this, the thing is like, I'm not gonna be able to share those, but anyway, I'm gonna just like zoom in here. His paintings are incredible because it's very economic, you know, it's like they're very economic. You could see like the stroke with multiple colors. For example, like it's almost like he would put like multiple colors in the same brush. And then they would just like with one single stroke, he would get like the parts with a little bit of the light and the darker parts as well. Everything like in a very economic way, you know, it's like everything was so, you look from a distance, looks super realistic, you know, it's like you look from a close up, it's just like almost abstract, you know, it's like it's just those very broad brushes. And I don't have a lot of pictures or self-portraits, for example. he used to put himself like in a few of his pieces. This being one of them with the little girls. You know, it's like there's that piece, I don't remember the name right now, but and then there's a couple of other portraits of him. And then hello, yes.
If you hit the view in the top tab, there is a preview site, so you can switch and also showing us the full image.
Okay, let's see. View. Okay, view.
No, and in the folder panel.
Oh, the folder panel.
Yeah, exactly. When you have the Velasquez pictures.
Yep.
So in the view side.
Oh, I see. No. Yeah, you're talking about like a preview. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Let's do that. The preview plane. So yeah. Exactly. Thanks, man.
So exactly, that's what I mean.
Yeah. I thought you were talking about Zoom. It's like, oh, yeah, I solved the problem.
No, I wish.
That's awesome. No, that's great, man. Thank you. Yeah. So it's like this is a portrait of him that was like, hello.
I think you're not showing the screen anymore.
I'm sorry?
I cannot see your screen.
You cannot see my screen right now?
We're seeing
Not sharing anymore.
Yes, you're showing your camera right now.
Can you see it? Can you see it now?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, yeah. So this is a portrait that was attributed to him later on, like a couple of years ago, actually. It was kind of like some people believe that was not his, and then when they started actually doing the whole it's like restoration of the whole thing, they cleaned up. This was originally the color was more like this, it's like the varnish and everything. It was pretty much like yellowish like that. And then as they start cleaning things up, a lot of those colors just like popped, and then in the process, they managed to discover that it turns out that was like a self-portrait of him, right? So that's basically like I'm going to be using this one as a reference. This one is part of one of the paintings, but there's some, some people believe like, oh, maybe it wasn't him because this was supposed to be a scene that involves like the royalty and everything. And then some people argue that royalty would not allow him to be there present in this scene. It's like that was such an important scene. But then some people say that he was so close to the king, that he would definitely have some leverage to put himself in the corner, because this is right at the right corner of the painting. And if you compare this, the features, in the face, it's pretty much like it's the same person, So they believe Absolutely. It's him. So I'm going to be using that one, this one as well. So I'm going to be using a painting that there's not a lot of detail I can extract from it, So a lot of the stuff is going to be made up, which is one thing that I like to do, It's like we have a lot of freedom to just invent things, right? Like, and come up with interesting detail to kind of like idealize that face with a higher detail kind of portrait. And this is just like a couple of references I gathered from some of his other paintings, were basically like amazing examples of lighting, And then I might use some of these examples here to put like create a background, It's like a kind of like the Baroque kind of painting. It was kind of like it's very dramatic, right? Like it's kind of like it's normally like just one single light. And then and also very dramatic and theatrical in a way, right? You look at Caravaggio, for example, another one of my favorites. It's very much like the same style. So that's going to be my project for this this month. I'm going to try to push as far as I can and make it cool and without looking too corny or cheesy. But yeah, it's going to be a little bit of a challenge right there. But since I'm here, let me just switch back here, and I'm going to show you what I have for my project scene. So I have this folder in my computer that's called Chris Personal Projects. And then inside here, I have all those models, right? Like all those personal projects. So I created this brand new one here. And I want you guys to do the same thing. Like just create a folder anywhere in your computer and call it the name of your character or whatever you want to do. I just had this symbol in the beginning here, so it pops at the very, at the top of the list. So I don't have to search for it every time. So I just created this one, Velasquez. And then inside of it, I want you guys to create a couple of folders. One is going to be references, and you're going to just put anything you can find about the character you're going to be modeling. And the other one is going to be called ZBrush. So the ZBrush folder, it's an option for you if you want to create, for example, like Z tools, Z projects in OBJs. You can do that if you want to keep everything separate, or you can just like keep everything in the same folder. I'm gonna do actually this. I'm gonna create like a ZPR. Let's do it more organized this time. ZTL, and then OBJ. Those are the main types of files you're gonna be using here, formats. So I'm gonna just put the ZPR inside of there, and now it's pre-organized. This intro here was just me talking about this stuff with you guys, so I'm gonna just ignore this one. It's gonna be just references in ZBrush. So going back to Maya, I'm gonna have to do that whole thing, sharing again. I'll share my Maya screen right here. So back to Maya. So the way to set up the scene, you're gonna have to do this. You're gonna have to go to File, and then you have like Set Project, and you have a project window, right? If you already have the structure created for different projects, you can just do a Set Project, and then you're just gonna find the folder you want, and then you're just gonna click Set, right? But in this case here, we don't have everything we need just yet. So I have like my personal projects. If I go to Velasquez, I only have those folders I talked about, references and ZBrush, right? So what I'm gonna do here, instead of using this Set Project, we're gonna use the project window, right? Project window, we're gonna click on it, and you're gonna see something like this. You can see the pop-ups, right?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So I have this naming here that says base mesh, right? And it's already pointing to that personal projects in there, but I don't want that. So the way it works is like this. If you never created any folder, for example, like if you look at the folder that I created before, it was called personal projects and then Velasquez. If you don't have the Velasquez created in there, you can just name the top in here, put Velasquez. You just like do it like a new like this, and then put the name in there. So in this case here is going to be Velasquez, right? And then you're going to point to the folder, which is the parent of that subfolder that's where all the projects going to go inside, right? So in this case here, my location is my personal projects, and then I'm naming Velasquez. But because I already have that folder, it should find it and then dump everything inside of that folder in there. So all you have to do is just repeat the same name of the folder you already have created, right? You're gonna notice there's a bunch of like different subfolders that Maya points to in here. And then most of them, you don't need to pay too much attention. It's just like stuff that Maya stores internally. But those ones are important, like the scenes, right? Scenes is important. You gotta basically like every time you save a file, a Maya file can be like .ma or .mb for ASCII and binary, right? You're gonna save inside of scenes. And then the other one you're gonna be paying attention is this one here called source images, this one here. So source images is the first folder that Maya looks for textures. So if you want to make sure that your scene is completely like mobile, it's like something that's portable. Basically, like if you want to copy to a different computer, you want to make sure that it's going to work. If you save the textures every time inside of source images, instead of like pointing to an absolute folder in your computer, you should be quite safe, So those are basically like the ones you're going to be paying attention the most. So once you have this set up, so the location of the main folder, and then the location of the subfolder, which is going to be hosting all the projects, this entire project that you're working on. So once you have those two things and everything else here is already filled up by default by Maya, don't need to worry about anything, just click accept. So when you click accept, let me just switch window here again. And now you're going to see this. Let's see. This is going to be a little bit painful, man, to do this switching here. But we're going to do what we can today and then figure this thing out. So now you can see I have all those new folders created in there for me, right? Don't worry about like this thing here. This is like the Google Drive. Everything is being backed up automatically because I'm afraid I'm going to lose things. So it's just like the Google Drive is actually scooping everything up. But then, yeah, all this stuff here was created by Maya just now. We had the references in the ZBrush folder, and now we have everything else we need to work with Maya, right? So what's going to happen now, you're going to notice this. Let me just go back. That's going to be something. And then one thing I'm going to show you here is if I try to open anything right now, if I click this one open, it's already pointing to Velasquez scenes in there, right? So it's actually looking for any file I already saved. And another thing that's going to do, basically, like if you look at the top bar here, if you're not familiar with Maya, there is this option right here, this little icon, that's a little gear, right? So you just click that one, and that's basically your render settings in there. And then you're going to notice that once I set up my project, it already set up the path in here for me. So you're going to see here, in my case, it's Chris, Personal Projects, Velasquez, and then images. So every time you save any renders, they're going to go inside of images. Obviously, if you're using like render passes and things like that, you're going to create, Maya is going to create like subfolders inside of that, like with you know, the name of the camera or the name of the passes, whatever, however you have you know, configured. But that's basically what we need right now. And then in this case here, the file name prefix is going to be the file name for every render you do from this point on. I'm going to just do like a, you know, in my case here, just like Velasquez. And then I can start with a number, for example, like 1. So I'm going to set up this whole tab in here and set up the other tabs for our first little renders you're going to be doing probably like tomorrow. So I'm going to start with this. So I put a name in here, and you're going to see it shows you a preview in there. So it's going to save anything as EXR. In this case here, I have as EXR format. It's up to you if you want to switch to something else like TIFF, but I'm going to keep EXR. Compression is zip. You can, you know, if you want to do uncompressed, you can just like click none. I'm going to keep like the way it is right now. And then the color space here, you can do the view transform or the output transform. We're going to be talking about this when you talk about ACES. We're going to be using ACES for the color space for our renders from this point on. And I'm going to get a little bit more into ACES as well as we talk. And then we have the animation frame in extension here. In this case here, by default, Maya sets up like for single frame, right? But that's not what we want. We want to make sure that we're able to set up like cameras with keyframes in them. And that way, for example, if you want to set up a render right before you go to bed, you can just leave it rendering, and then all the frame is going to be rendered overnight, right? So instead of single image, I'm going to click this one, and I'm going to switch to name, and then number and extension, right? Name.number.extension. So that's going to be my setting in there. And then for frames in here, I want to render. I normally set up my camera, and then from that point on, I just iterate, right? So I have like a bunch of different angles I want to render, like a profile, 3/4, from below, from the bottom. And then I normally use like between 15 and 20 frames, right? So I'm going to do that. I'm going to just do like a 15 frame in here. You guys, you know, plan, you know, how many frames you're going to be using, like to be able to show the model from different angles. And then for the resolution in here, I would say I normally render stuff that I want to share on Instagram. So as a starting point, I can start with 900 by 900. You can use like 1000 by 1000, I suppose. You know, just so it's a square, right? And so that's basically it for this tab here. Let's see, just render options, nothing to change. Nothing to change here. So that's basically it for this first tab. That's the common tab. Now we're going to go to the Arnold render. The Arnold render tab here, by default, Arnold starts with very low samples, right? And Arnold is very well known for producing amazing results. Like the renders are really incredible, but they are not like super fast to render, right? Like it's not like, it doesn't have a super optimized, you know, GPU engine or anything like that. It's pretty new, you know, and at this point here, for this type of scene that I have, all those models I just show you guys, I would need at least like 24, 25, you know, gigs of RAM to be able to render that. So I would need like a very, very powerful card to be able to do that. So I'm still waiting for it to be released. You know, it's like probably like one of those RTX are not going to do it because you cannot even find them. But I'm actually excited to see what those AMDs are going to do. You know, it's like I think they're going to be more available, and seems some of them are, you know, like the specs are pretty good. I mean, like it might not be as fast, but if they have enough memory to render my stuff, I would be thrilled, you know. But so the camera anti-alias here, this is the one that's going to drive basically like most of the samples in the entire scene. Those ones here are going to be more like a multiplication kind of thing. But this one is going to be the one that's going to be driving the anti-alias samples. So the higher you go with this number here, obviously the render is going to get slower and slower, right? So Maya suggests starting with a 3, but at 3, you're probably going to get very, very noisy renders if you have like area lights. So I'm going to start like with at least 6, right? Now, for the other ones in here, later on, we're going to be using subsurface scattering. And the subsurface scattering needs more samples as well. So if you are using just 2 in here, it's not going to cut it, right? So one thing that I started using, I mean, like this was just recent. I started to actually use samples like this 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 2 again. So I'm adding more samples to the subsurface scattering and reducing the samples for diffuse. Now, if you're not using a lot of subsurface scattering, and for example, like if you have an area light and you have just 1 for diffuse, you're gonna get like some noise going on in there. So you can slowly, start increasing this number here to try to get rid of that. But that's gonna be in combination with the number of samples in the light itself. Like the light itself by default, I think has just 1 sample. And to get like a noise-free shadow, you're probably going to have to increase that. So it's going to be a combination between increasing the samples for the light and the diffusing here. But for now, just for initial tests we're going to be doing tomorrow, let's just set up like 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 2. And then the progressive render is basically like you click render, and then Maya is going to basically like refine that scene until it stops. And then that's basically the way it works, right? The advantage is that it can stop at any time, so you can get like noisier renders, but at least you can have an idea about how things are going to look like. If this is off, then it's going to be rendering just like tile by tile, and then you're only going to show up when the tile is complete, right? So you're not going to be able to see exactly how that's going to turn out. If it's something that you are iterating, especially at the beginning of the project, you want to make sure that you're using progressive, so it's kind of like easy to see the progress of everything, Adaptive sampling is kind of like an automatic way to say, okay, Maya just, Arnold, just calculate for me. I can just provide you what's the maximum anti-alias that I want. Let's say like 14 or something like that. And then the adaptive threshold. So how closer or further from that number is going to be, And then Arnold's going to try its best to actually adapt and give you like the fastest result within these constraints that you're given it. But I normally don't use it, It's like I never noticed like a huge difference. Maybe I have to play more with adaptive threshold and make sure that I have like a broader range. It's like probably gonna, it's like sacrifice some areas and then refine some other areas. But I normally keep it off, but optional to you guys. The clamping here, if you start seeing like fireflies and stuff like that, it's like some artifacts in the scene. Sometimes it's good to actually just turn on. It's like the clamping. For the most part, I don't use it, but sometimes if I see some stuff that's too hot, it's like I turn it on. I would say that the filtering here is one that I play a little bit with. You have a bunch of different ones here. Normally, Arnold, in the manual, they recommend, for example, the Black Man Harris, and then I think, which one is the other one? Maybe the Cat Rum or something like that. But they also say that if you use the Gaussian, and you can actually, if you want to make the image sharper, you can actually reduce this number here. But if you reduce too much, what happens is that you end up like creating some artifacts with the skin. It's like when you render subsurface scattering, you want to make sure that the skin looks soft. It's like the skin, when you shine a light on a person, it's like in real life, there's this glow. It's like it kind of like the subsurface produced like this inside illumination, obviously, but it kind of almost like glows outside, it's like depending on the incidence of the light, it's like if it's a strong light, and you don't want to lose that kind of like effect, it's like the softness of the skin. And when you start like sharpen the image too much, it can be in post-processing or even like in during the raw renders, you kind of end up like losing that impression, it's like it gets a little bit, it looks more solid, almost like a piece of rock, it's like instead of like reading the pores as something soft, it kind of like looks a little rocky. So you can still, it's like bring this one down, but without going too crazy. I would say between 1.5, 1. In the past I would use like 1.2, but I ended up like dialing back to, higher numbers. So I think like 1.5 gonna give you a little bit more sharpness, but without sacrificing too much. Under the advanced here, This is something I'm going to be using later. I'm going to explain how it works, the auto bumping subsurface scattering, right? So this is going to be something there. Someone is calling here. Let's see. Not showing a still image. What is that?
I messaged you that your image, your video on your face is off. It's just showing your photograph of you. Just so you know. Sorry to interrupt.
Yeah,
Sorry
no
to
problem.
interrupt.
No problem. Thank you. And then, so for the auto bump here, subsurface scattering, just I can give you a preview of how this thing works. Arnold, in fact, you have to, when you are trying to render like an object that's like super high resolution coming out of ZBrush, for example, right? We're going to be dealing with HD geometry. And HD geometry, you can actually represent like, in theory, 1 billion polygons, right, in displacement map. So the way that Arnold deals with this, you have to inform Arnold how many subdivision levels you're going to use. If you use something like 5 or more, Arnold's going to end up like crashing. So you cannot do that. You know, it's like it just crashes because you cannot subdivide this many times during render time. But there's an option that's basically this. You can set up subdivision levels to 4 or 5. If your computer supports 5, great. If not, just like keep it 4. And then there is an option in there in the object properties we're going to be seeing tomorrow that's going to be use auto bump. And that means that all the detail that was Arnold was not able to recreate with the displacement maps is going to shift to a kind of like a virtual a bump map, basically. And then this option here is just, you're just telling Arnold that you want to make sure that you're creating a scatter in the bump map as well, not only like the displacement parts, but also the super fine detail as well is going to be scattered, you know. So that's a cool option later on when you have everything set up. But this actually increases the, you know, it's like there's an option there. It's saying here like warning, enabling this checkbox triple shader evaluation in subsurface scattering. So it's going to really increase the render times, you know. But if you want the most realistic results at the end, that's the option we're going to need. So I'm going to keep it off for now. This is the ray depth. It's basically like if you're using like transparent objects, in the case of the sclera, we're going to be talking about like the sclera in the cornea. So the cornea, you're going to need the light to penetrate the cornea, right? Like reach the iris and then come back. So basically like the light has to travel inside and back. So you have to make sure that you have enough rays to actually create this effect, right? Otherwise, it's going to be blocked. For example, once you have the eyes in place, you can even test that. If you reduce to 1, for example, you're not going to be able to see the iris. It's going to be completely black in there. As you start increasing here, it's going to be, you know, it's like adding more and more depth to that transparency. So around 10 should be okay. You know, it's like if you want to increase those other ones here, you can do that too. Like maybe like just to have a little buffer in there. But I think by default, what you have is already enough. Maybe transmission at 10 as well. And then environment, we are not going to be using here unless you want to create something like a fog in your scene, right? Or some atmospherical kind of effect. But that's not going to be the case in here in our scene. At least like on my side, I'm not going to be using them. And then let's see, operators, nothing, lights, nothing, textures. So for textures here, if you are if you used Maya before in the past, back in the day when it was like mental ray, you're going to remember that mental ray, in order to render like high resolution textures, you would have to tile those textures, right? So instead of like loading the entire thing into memory, you would split into like little bits of like, I don't know, like 256K each little tile or something like that. And then you would load each one of them at a time and then basically like unload it, right? So you would save a lot of memory in the process. So if you don't have a lot of memory in your computer, if you have a computer that's not very powerful, you can turn this one on and leave it on, right? So you can actually render things more tiled. But if you have a computer that has enough memory, in my case here, I have the 128 gigs. I really don't care, you know, it's like I can load everything into memory, and even after we have all the maps plugged, everything in my scene is about 25 gigabytes, right? So even if you have a 64, you should be good, you know, it's like, I would say 32 would be a minimum to work on the stuff we're gonna be working on, but 64 would be kind of like the ideal. And then 128 would be like, oh yeah, I have plenty of room to do a lot of stuff and create more complex scenes for sure. But in my case, I'm gonna turn it off for now, both of them. And if your computer doesn't have like enough memory or less than 64, you can keep it on, it's like, so that can give you some help in there. Subdivision, I'm not gonna do anything. By default, that's the maximum subdivisions, 231. I don't know why that number is kind of arbitrary, but that's what it is. And then let's look at system now. System, here you have GPU and CPU, right? I keep CPU because, like I said, GPU is still very much like beta. It's very buggy. My card, I have like a GTX 1070, which is kind of old. And I have only like 8 gigabytes of RAM. This would never support like all the stuff I'm going to be putting in the scene here. So it would definitely not render. So I'm keeping everything in GPU, in CPU. And for the render type, you have a bunch of different ones here. Actually, the bucket scanning, you can render the buckets instead of like, when you render, you see those little squares, right? Like populating the entire screen when you're rendering. And you have like, you can start from the top, from left, random, spiral, or Hilbert. And then I'm going to keep the spiral as the main one. So it starts from the center and then it starts spiraling out. And then the bucket size is based like the number of pixels each one of those squares is going to have. I tried a couple of different numbers in here, and I did like some tests to see how fast it would render a simple scene. I ended up like getting like for my computer here like a very weird number, which is like 24. And 24 gave me like a gain in relation to like 64 or 128 or something like that. He actually rendered the entire scene faster by keeping a smaller bucket. And it was funny because I think I tried 16 and it was slower than 24. So I kept 24. But you never know, it's like maybe the computer is actually using resources for something else. This one is basically going to auto detect how many threads you have, how many processors you have. In the past, one of my students suggested to use -1 in here because according to him, he actually reserves one processor or one thread for Maya itself. I don't know. There's something that he mentioned about reserving it, but I'm not completely sure about how it works. So I normally keep my auto threads on, and I never had a problem with this. So not going to be, trying that. And then AOVs in here. I'm going to leave it to you guys to explore this. Arnold has a lot of information about this. It's basically like if you want to render everything in passes, right? So if you want to like a Z pass for creating like post-processing on the like a depth of field, for example, you just have to click that pass and click this one here. It adds in there. And then you can set up like there is ways to denoise things during the render time, right? But I normally don't use those things because I try to get the scene as close as possible to the final render as I can inside of Maya. So all my lighting, everything, I try to tweak everything inside of Maya. I have this kind of like thing stuck in my head that was like watching a documentary about how Pixar approached the stuff that I did. This was back in the day, right? When they were doing like Finding Nemo, I think. And one of the things that stuck to my head was like, they didn't do a lot of post-processing. They said like, we try to get everything we can in render. So it basically like saves a lot of time, it's like trying to tweak things later on. But it goes both ways, right? If you want more flexibility, then definitely like you go for it. It's like you can use like different passes for everything. You have like control over the diffuse, the specular, subsurface scattering, everything in here, just like people use for ZBrush, right? Rendering passes and then combine everything in Photoshop. But I'm gonna leave it as an option to you guys to explore this with Arnold manual. They explain everything, how you set this up. I did a few tests. But I definitely ended up like going back to my old way of doing it. And then the last tab in here, this is a pretty cool one. I didn't use it a lot in the past, but this option here, feature overrides, this is extremely helpful. Once you have your scene complex with all the displacement maps and everything, you're gonna make sure that you can actually test things. Let's say you have like your specular map plugged and you have your albedo and everything, but you just want to check like the specular map, how it looks like in relation to the displacement map. So you can turn off, for example, the subsurface scattering. When you do that, the model is going to go completely black, And then when it's black, then you're going to be able to see just you know, how the specular behaves on top of all the detail, right? So that's going to be very useful. You can do the same, like to eliminate displacement on the fly, right? And this is really fast. You can keep the IPR live in the background, and you can just click on those buttons here and check things on or off. And then you can get like you know, you see all the results like in real time there. It's really cool. This is very useful. So that's basically what we're going to do to set up our initial scene here in Maya. I'm going to just save the scene here. It's going to be an empty scene. We don't have anything in it just yet. But I'm going to start with Velasquez 1 and then MB. You can save as ASCII file. They are bigger, right? And the advantage is that's basically like it's a text file. So if you know how to fix files, if you have like a corruption or something like that, that's a useful file type to have. But because I have no clue how to fix my files, and because I want to save space in disk, I just use MB. You know, again, it's an option for you guys. You can use ASCII if you know what you're doing, if you're a programmer, or just like MB. You know, so I'm going to start with MB. We're going to save it. It's important to save. And another thing you're going to do, once it's saved, I'm going to just close my Maya. I'm going to open it again. Now, that's a good question, right? Like, since I'm closing my Maya here, I wonder if you guys are going to lose your screen completely in there. Yeah, it says like screen sharing has stopped. All right, so let's start it again. Man, I have basically like tonight to figure out how this thing works, like how to share my entire screen. As I don't want to go through this tomorrow with you guys. This is going to be a torture for you and for me too. So let's see. It's coming up. Let's see here, Maya. There you go. Okay, back to Maya. Yeah, the reason why I shut off Maya and reopen it is because all this stuff I just saved, you know, it's like this setting up the project and everything. If you have a crash by, you know, it's like Maya, it's pretty good at about crashing all the time. So if I had any crash from that point on, all this stuff that I set up, it would be gone basically. So, you know, it didn't save until you basically like you leave Maya and come back to it. So I have my scene in there is like all open right now, right? So if I just click open here, it's going to go straight to it. And then if I go in here, it should bring back all those settings that I had before, right? Like all the, so if I go back here, so yeah, so Velasquez, blah, 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 all the settings are there now, right? So that's all we need. Now let's talk about another setting we're going to have to do here. Today is going to be about preparing our files to, you know, so we can iterate in the next days. My philosophy is always like, try to get the model rendered straight away, which is going to be tomorrow. So you can actually see that model as a physical piece, you know, it's like, it's very hard to evaluate form if you're using ZBrush because it's just like gray shaded, right? So you're just like using gray shaded models, and ZBrush doesn't have a, you know, it's like a real 3D interface, right? It's basically like 2.5D that they call, because it's basically like pixels and not really, you know, it's like polygons or anything. So it's very hard to evaluate form. So if you have like a simple lighting setup in Maya, it's going to be much easier to actually see what we're doing. And then from that point on, we're going to constantly iterate in the same model, you know, it's like over and over again. We're going to be talking about like the world scale as well. It's going to be very important to have like the size of the head according to world scale values, because Arnold is very dependent on that. You know, it's like, imagine like if you're trying to figure out the thickness of the skin, right? Like if you're using an arbitrary size for the head, you're never going to nail that, right? So you have to have those values pretty much like locked into place. But let's talk about the aces here, right? So the way it works is like this. Let's create something completely stupid here. Let's do like a create a polygon sphere. Let's do our first little rendering here. That's a little sphere in here. This little sphere in here in the menu, this is where you bring up hypershade. Can you see my hypershade?
Yes.
Oh, cool. Yeah. Oh man, I'm glad at least this is working. So if we click on the hypershade, this is where you're going to create all your materials, right? And by default, it's kind of like it's a mix in here, right? On the top, you're going to see Maya. And those are all the shaders you have available for Maya. And then all the way down here, you have Arnold. So all the shaders related to Arnold are in here, right? So this is all mixed in here if you click the top node. But then if you go through those ones, if you go to shader, that's where you're going to find your shaders in there. And then Arnold works with this Uber shader. That's basically like you can create anything or almost anything with it, right? It's called AI Standard Surface. So I'm going to click that one. I'm going to create my very first shader in here, right? And I can even name this one. So I can just like, just put like sphere in there. So if you move this window away a little bit, click that little sphere in there. You can either just like click and drag and drop with the middle button, or you can right click and then say assign material to viewport selection. So I'm going to do that. So now it has this first shader that we just created. If you want to access everything that's part of this model here, if you're not familiar with Maya, you bring the attributes of this object by clicking the object and pressing Control A, and that should bring this menu in here. And then everything that was assigned to this object, like if you did like any modifications to it, everything is going to be stacked into tabs in here. So right now I have this sphere tab. That's basically the material we just created. So from here, you don't need to open Hypershade. You can just do all the tweaks using this, right? So that's basically like my weight for the diffuse, right? And then let's create our very first little lighting here. It'll be a very simple one. Arnold lights. Let's do area light. And then W, E, and R, just like similar to ZBrush, right? Kind of like to go through, like move for W, E for rotation, and then R for scale. So with this in mind, I'm just going to click like with the right, with the middle button, I'm going to click this little yellow arrow. I'm going to bring it up. Then middle click again, move it around here, and then switch E to switch to rotation. I'm going to rotate a little bit. And then if I do this render right now, it's probably not going to show you much. One thing you're going to set up here as well is this. If you, by default, you have this camera called perspective, right? But you can always go to panels in here and just say new. So you can create a copy of it. Not a copy, but a new one, right? So now I have perspective and perspective 1. This is cool because sometimes you have your perspective set up and then you want to tweak like lighting, but without having to go back and forth, you know, it's like you can just like keep locked the way it is. And you just go to the other camera and you can tweak all the objects around your center object in there. So one thing you're going to do here first is going to be this. I'm going to try to access the information. Let's say you have like your object selected. To select the camera, the best way to do, the easiest way is to click View, select Camera. And now you have the attributes in here. If you're not seeing the attributes, press Control A again, right? So it's going to pop in here. And the focal length by default in Maya is 35, which is very wide. The equivalent of our vision, right? Like the human eye is about 60 millimeters, right? So if I switch to 60, that feels more comfortable in terms of the, you know, the depth of field and, you know, it's like the perspective, everything feels more comfortable for what we are used to, right? But you're a photographer. If you're a photographer, you know that, you know, it's like we use like some, you know, ideal lenses, not, you know, people have different preferences and everything, but ideal lenses would be, for example, if you're photographing someone like full body, like a 35 would be great, like a 50 even, right? But then, for example, like the waist and up, waist up to head, like a 50 millimeters. If you get closer and closer to the face, you get like that number a little bit higher, right? So for example, like if it's head and shoulders, like an 85 millimeters. If it's locked to the face, for example, like 100 to 135, something like that. But some photographers prefer even like even higher numbers, you know, it's like a 200 makes everything very flat, right? So sometimes they rather do that to make things on purpose a little bit flatter. But for the purpose of sculpting and evaluating the form in here, we're going to start with 60, but then as we start getting more into the portrait itself, we're probably going to land into something around 85 to 135. So I'm gonna, let's do like 100 here. Start with 100 since we're gonna be doing portrait anyway. And then now the next thing I'm gonna do, it's hard for me to see what's gonna be rendered in here, right? You just see like a lot of gray around in here, but you cannot see exactly what's the area that's gonna be rendered. So if you go to View, you can go to the camera settings in here, and you're going to see there's an option that says, let's just dock this one. This option here is going to tell you to use a resolution gate, right? So now I know exactly what's going to be rendered, which is going to be this square in here. You see there is an area like there's a gate mask. So it's basically like it's good to have it. So it takes out that, but this is square here, this dark square is basically what's going to be rendered. So if I wanted something really tight against the borders, the edges of the render, we're going to use something like this, right? A little bit further. So basically that's the square going to be rendering. And then there's this few chart in here. It's kind of useful to see, for example, like, you know, the center and the diagonals. So it's useful like for composition, for example, right? I wish they had like a lot of thirds in here or something like that. Would be very useful as well. But this chart is very cool, you know, especially if you're trying to figure out the position for the eyes, for example, right? Like in a portrait, to have a square, especially if it's a rectangle, right? Like with the square is a little bit, portraits are not very interesting as squares, unless you're framing a different way. But portraits are normally cooler when you do like a, you know, it's like a rectangular kind of composition. But let's just turn it off for now. So that's basically like what I have right now. Since this is just a quick test here we're going to be doing, I'm not going to be playing too much with the camera. You want to just like take a look at how this renders overall, right? And then tomorrow, as we start setting up the scene for rendering, then we're going to create the keyframes and everything. But for now, let's just do this. Let's create just one keyframe for this angle here, let's say. I'm going to do this by going to View, select Camera, and then press S like Sam, right? Or you can just go right here and right click at the very beginning, right there at frame 1. And you can just say like key, let's say, what's that? Add keys, add in between. No, actually, I don't think you do it from here, but I normally do it from here. So if you go to this tab right here, so you're gonna see right here, everything is keyed, right? So that's basically like I have my camera selected. You can tell because like there's this white little line in here, and you can see the little red in there. So you can tell that this is, it has keyframe. If I wanna select everything, for example, right click and say break connections, or you know, in this case here, basically like eliminates completely that curve. And the same way you can just right click and just say key selected, right? So basically like it's the same thing as just like pressing S, like Sam, like I said. So in this case here now, I can play around, right? Go anywhere. And then if I go back, it's always gonna lock back to that, right? It's gonna be useful for us to make sure that we're, you know, we are in control of the view. But remember that I created a new camera in here, perspective 1. So this is going to be the one I'm going to be using to actually tweak the lighting. Because once I start rendering this one here, right? Let's do a render here just so you can see it. So to render anything, you can go to Arnold and then open Arnold render view. We're not going to be using the Maya render view. We're going to be using Arnold render view. Let's bring this one back here. And that's basically already the resolution in here, right? Like it's 900 by 900. If I click Control and then use the wheel in my mouse, I can actually reduce it, right? Like go zoom out like this. So that's my very first render. Probably you're not going to be able to see anything when I click render here. And I'm going to tell you why. So I'm going to render here. See, like it's rendering very fast, but nothing shows up. It's because now that I have this one already locked in here, I can switch back to my other camera. And now anything I do in here is going to be updated automatically in here, right? Unless I press like the stop button here. But if I have the play button on, this is basically IPR mode. So let's do some tweaks in this lighting here. So I'm going to click the light itself, Control A. Let's do this, Control A. Oh, right there. There you go. And let's just do a little tweaking here. So you see, like by default, the intensity here is just 1, and exposure is just is like 0, right? There are a couple of things about lighting here. I'm talking about lighting the first day. I should be talking about the other stuff, but I think I'm gonna extend this class a little bit further today, just because we wasted some time at the beginning. So I'm gonna extend it a little bit. So basically, like, the way it's gonna work is like this. you see, like I can barely see any image in there. Like the lighting is very, you know, not very strong by default. If I increase the exposure in here, let's say like 5. See, unlock. What? Why is my my numbers are not working for some reason? It's my num lock. Let's see, num lock. Okay, num lock goes off. So okay, so if I start increasing this number here, you can see things getting a little bit more visible now, right? The material we have by default, it has some reflection, right? If you go to a sphere in here, you're gonna see there's some reflection going on. And we're gonna be talking about all this stuff later on, so don't worry too much about it for now. But you're gonna see here, you have the specular, right? It's completely at 1 in here. If I reduce it, the reflection is gone. And the roughness is at 0.2. If I bring it down, it gets sharper and sharper, right? Or more diffuse like that. So that is just like some principles in there, just to show you guys if you're not familiar at all. If you're familiar, just, you know, give us a pass today, because we're just like exploring a few things here and there. Another thing that's very useful here to know is that when you click the light itself, you look at the properties. Remember I talked about like the samples? The number of samples is just 1 in here. If you're seeing a lot of noise in the shadows, once you have like a nose in there, you know, under the nose, you're gonna see some shadows in there. You can increase this number. I would say like go to 6 or 8. That should solve the problem. I'm gonna start this one with just like 2, so it doesn't add a lot of render time to it. And the other thing you're gonna see here is this. Let's see, spread, blah, blah, blah. Let's see, color correction, eliminate, quad. Yeah, so you see there's this option here that says normalize. I'm gonna turn it off, and you're gonna see this happening. See, there's a difference in there between this one and this one. The difference is that, like, if you don't have normalize on, if it's off, if I change the size of this, it considers as a physical object, right? So basically, like, the larger it gets, the more lighting you get, right? So that's if you have it off. So it kind of like, it might be useful, you know, to do that way. But if you want to do something that's more creative, you know, be more creative with your lighting, you can use the normalize. And what the normalize does is basically like it preserves the same intensity all the way through. So if I have like, let's say 5 in here, why is my number sometimes it doesn't turn on, dude? I just don't understand what Maya is doing right now. All right, so 5. So right now, with a normalize on, look what's going to happen here. So if I reduce this, the intensity of the light is the same, but the shadow is going to get sharper and sharper depending on, you know, how much you know, area you have available, right? Like, so for example, if I have like a very large softbox, you're going to get like a lot of very soft shadows around it, and then the shadow is going to get sharper and sharper as I go smaller with it, right? But the amount of illumination is basically the same. It's just distributed, you know. So it's pretty cool. So I would keep like the normalize on in your case in there, but I'd go back and forth. In the past, I would, you know, just like use the size of the light to work with it. But this one gives me a lot of control, I think, you know. It's like just be more creative with it. So that's our little first lighting setup in there. But I'm doing this render here first day is just to show you this. You see the view transforming here is ACES sRGB, right? By default, you probably don't have that in your computer. If you just installed Maya, you don't have any of this. See all this stuff here? This is all, it was all added later. You're probably gonna have like sRGB, but not ACES, right? And there are a couple of different ones in here. And I'm liking to use one here that is, let's see if I remember. I'm gonna have to open one of my previous scenes, but I believe is the D60. Instead of using the sRGB, I'm actually using this D60 here. I'm gonna tell you why later, but I have to test in an actual scene. It's just the way it treats like the whites and the saturations in the scene. I like it the way it looks better, you know. It's like, even though my monitor is sRGB calibrated, I kind of like the results of that specific one. But I'm gonna tell you how to install it, okay? So I'm gonna have to stop this share here and just like find my page. Let's just point you guys to our class page. Let me talk about this right now. Actually, I have to introduce you guys to all this stuff so you're not lost in the next days. So let's do this. Okay, so I'm gonna share this one. So that's the website. And then to find, like, this class is gonna be posted probably like 2.5 hours or around 3.5 hours after the whole thing is done here. You're gonna have it online so you can actually rewatch it. And you should be able to see it under courses. And then if you go to individual courses, you're gonna have the November live one, right? And then you're gonna see it right there. You're gonna have like a resume course, right? And then, so here, obviously you guys probably are familiar with all this stuff because you got the bundles together with it, but that's basically like the link for this new one, right? So under the welcome in here, I added a bunch of different links in here that we didn't have in the past classes. So I want you guys to take a look at them. The first one is gonna be the HDRI Haven, which is the source of all the HDRI maps I use. This is very useful. They have like, you know, lots of like free stuff. We're gonna explore it tomorrow when you're doing this. And then the second link here is this the download for ACES, right? This is the one you're gonna need to do it right now, actually. So if you don't have it installed yet, we're gonna install it. And then this one here is an interesting one I found, which compares the most common color spaces here with examples. For example, like starting with the BT1886, and then they have the sRGB in here, and they have, you know, you keep going down here. You have like this REC 2020, and then there's a D65 that's very similar to the one I use. Let's see, P3. This is a 65. I used the D60. I kind of like the look of it. You know, it's like things are not very saturated. It looks more naturalistic to me. So that's the one I'm using for my latest renders. I might go back and forth, you know, but when we get to that, I'm gonna explain, you know, as I can and get into the difference between them. But so this one is there as well. You know, it's like it's this link here, this third link, right? So you can see those examples. But we're gonna go to the second link in here and download this. So basically, this page here has every single version of ACES. So like 0.11, 0, etc. The latest one is 1.2. So you're gonna have to actually download this, right? So go back and let's see, go to File, Compare, Code. Let's see, Code and download zip, right? So basically, you're gonna download the zip, and it's gonna be gigantic. It's gonna be, I don't know, like over 1 gig or like 2 gigs or something like that. It's this big. Unless you guys know how to download just the individual folders, I'm not sure how to do this. You know, maybe there's a way to just download just a specific folder, because that's all you need is going to be 1.2. So once you download this, right, either you do that way, like just get the code, like download the zip, you're going to have everything. You ignore everything else, just use this folder, going to be ACES 1.2. And then that's going to be everything that's inside of that folder. So now that you have that, let me just switch back. It's going to be a pain to do all the switches, but I have to keep feeding you some information. So let's do this. I'm going to switch back here. I'm going to point you where I have my stuff saved. So let's do this right here, this one. So you see, like I have my Velasquez folder where we just created, right? Like all the structure for zip for Maya in there. And then right here, I have this ACES config. It can be any name you want to do. You can create this folder anywhere in your hard drive too, you know? But I created right here together with all my scene files, right? My projects. Yes.
I sent you the link where I've got mine, and it's it lets you download just what version you want.
Oh, really? That's awesome.
Yeah, it's on the chat.
Oh yeah, man. Let's just get it. Let's see. Hey, you guys got the chat, right? Like, yeah, if you can download that one, let's see. Oh yeah, that's cool, man. That's awesome. I'm gonna upload that, update that link in there. That's great, and it's not very big, I suppose.
No, it's tiny.
Oh, that's awesome, man. That's perfect. Thank you so much.
Yep.
Yeah, so that's great. And then, okay, so back in here, once you have that file downloaded, you're gonna unzip it inside of this folder that you just created, right? You still can see my folder here, right?
Yes.
Okay, cool. So you see, like, it's basically the same thing we saw in the website in there. You have baked LUTs, Python, and then config. This is going to be the main one we're going to be pointing in Maya. So it's be config.ocio, right? And then the readme md. So basically, like, download that file, unzip in any folder that you can find easily. You're going to remember where it is in your hard drive. And then let's switch back here to Maya now. So I'm going to share my Maya again. So back to Maya, the way you set this up is going to be right here. So you see, like, if you go down here, you're going to see this little guy running in there with a little gear behind him. That's the shortcut for the settings for your Maya. But you can find that as well under Window or Windows. And then you're going to go to Settings and Preferences, and then Preferences, right? In my case here, I had this, like, last class. It happened the same way. For some reason, like, my Maya environment file is being corrupted every time. I mean, like, I save a scene. If I get out of Maya, it corrupts it. So I don't know, you know, it's like, so I'm using this one here to be able to access it. So that's the shortcut in there. But either one should work, you know. And then you're going to see all the settings for Maya are here, right? Like, you're going to have settings for your display, all kinds of stuff. The main ones we're going to be using for this entire class going to be the settings, because we're going to be setting up, like, the working units, right? It's in centimeters here. We can switch, like, between centimeters and inches when you're scaling, depending on where you are, like, if you're more comfortable with. Since I'm here in the States, you know, it's like we use inches for the most part, and I got used to that. So I'm going to switch to inches at some point. But it seems like Arnold works with centimeters, you know. So we got into this thing about, like, switching to inches just to sculpt the head, like, to the correct proportion in one of those past classes. And then when you're about to add those values in Arnold, the same values I used for all the other classes, it wasn't matching. And then we came to the conclusion, like, oh, let's switch to centimeters, you know, so I can see if he fixes it. And he fixed it. So it seems like Arnold's kind of locked into centimeters. And basically, like, the metrical system, right? Centimeters, millimeters. And so inches definitely not going to translate, but, you know, we can use still, like, inches just, like, for the sake of sculpting and putting in the correct proportion if we need it. But later on, we're going to have to switch back to centimeters, which is basically the default for Maya. So that's going to be one thing we're going to be dealing later. But for now, for the purpose of ACES, we're going to click this color management in here, right? And by default, you're going to see, like, in your Maya, you don't have all this stuff on, right? So once you click Enable Color Management, you can click next, going to be use the OCIO configuration. And then you're going to point this to that specific folder we just created, which was, like, ACES config, right? And then you have your config OCIO in there. So you're going to click Open, and that's going to be the configuration, right, for ACES. And then from that point on, a lot of the stuff is going to populate. This stuff by default is not on, but you're going to start seeing, like, this is going to switch to color space ACES CG. It's going to be the first thing you're going to see changing. And then you have all those options in here, right? Like, you have a bunch of them. And again, like, most of the monitors, you're rendering for the monitor, you use, like, a sRGB, right? Like, that's basically, like, the one we use. But like I said, I mean, like, for my renders, I'm using this P3D60, which I know is not perfect for my monitor, but I still like the result better, you know? So I'm using that one. For now, I'm going to just keep sRGB. I'm going to switch later to show you guys. And then here, you're going to see there's a couple of things that are very useful here. Those rules, the way it works is like this. You probably are not going to see anything like that in your file. If you just install ACES, you're not going to see JPEG, EXR, HDR, and PNG. You're going to just see, like, default, right? And the default color space, you're going to have to, you know, it's like you can pick one in here. Let's see, ACES CG or something like that, right? But then that's going to be the default, meaning that any file that you import into ZBrush, into Maya, for example, like a HDRI map, displacement map, color maps, anything, any textures, going to be converted to this color space once it's imported, right? But the thing is, like, no matter what I do in here, I'm actually setting things up in here to overwrite this. So basically, like, if there's if I don't have the extension I'm importing represented in here, that's going to assign this color space. But if I have my presets in here, automatically every time I bring a JPEG, it's going to convert to something else, right? So the way you create this is basically like you're going to click add, right? So you can just like put, like, let's say like BMP. Yeah, there's something clicked in my, something very weird happening here. I'm clicking, it's actually clicking out. It's very weird, man. There's something bizarre happening right now. But let's say like I create like a BMP here. So the intention here is every time I bring a BMP map, like a bitmap, it's going to convert to a different space. You see, like by default, it's converting to ACCG, right? But let's take a look at the bitmap that I have already set up here, which is the JPEG, right? JPEG is actually converting to utility sRGB texture. You have to do this, you know, it's like anytime you bring an 8-bit maps, it has to be converted to this specific format in here. So if it is a BMP, we're going to do the same thing. So it's going to be utility sRGB texture. Man, what is happening? See, I cannot. I don't know if it's the focus. There's something funky with my computer, man. Oh, I got it.
I think it's my other.
Yeah, I just got it. So BMP. So first I give the name manually, add BMP, and then image extension to BMP as well. And then this one here, I'm going to set up to, let's go to all the way down here. It's going to be utility sRGB texture, right? So basically now I just create this new preset, this BMP, and then any file that has that extension is going to go to utility sRGB texture. I'm going to set up my JPEG the same way. If you want to do like with PNG, you can do the PNGs the same way, right? TIFF, in my case here, is the same thing as well. So every time you have a bitmap, you're going to convert to utility sRGB texture. Now the difference here is that when you bring a HDRI map, which is going to be the, you know, the lighting we're going to be using, you're going to see that the format is different. So if I click HDR, it's actually converting to the space that you're going to be using. So in your case here, if you're using like linear, let's say sRGB, right? So if you're using sRGB, you're going to be clicking this guy here, utility linear sRGB. In my case, because I'm using this space P3D60, I'm actually converting automatically to it, because I want to make sure that the texture is matching the color space of my renders, right? Like it has to. And for EXR is the same thing here. I'm using the color space I'm going to rendering at the end. DXR, I'm not sure if you can use raw or if it has to be, a linear conversion, you know, but it's something we can test. There's definitely information in the online manual for them. So the PNG, like I said before, same. So utility sRGB texture, right? So the difference is that everything that's bitmap is going to be linear, sRGB texture, and then everything that's like 32 bits float, like EXR or HDR, is going to be, you know, linear, and then whatever color space you're using. Most commonly is going to be sRGB, basically. That's what's going to be. One thing you can see, if you go to, let me show you this. Let me just switch back here to, again, to the browser. If you just type something like, let me just save this one. We're going to update my keyboard, man. It's like there's something so weird. It's like the entire thing is acting a little funny. I wonder if this is related to the, you know, me not being able to share the screen. So I'm going to have to figure it out. Just now we unlocked it for some reason. Can you still see my browser here?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so if you just type something like Arnold 5 manual in your browser, you can go to the Arnold manual in here, which is very complete, man. It has all kinds of information, and it's like everything illustrated, you know, it's like it has lots of images in there. Let's just type here ACES. Let's see if you can find right there. So ACE's workflow, the first one. One thing you're gonna notice is that, so there's the difference in there from sRGB to ACES, right? Like the colors are supposed to be richer, have more depth of color. And then there's all like the listed, all the advantages of using it, a wide range of color and light exposure, you know, more predictable, preserving full range of highlights, shadows, and colors, etc. But there are some examples down here that shows, for example, like if you're using a linear HDRI map, right? In this, for example, like open as ACG. So if you open default as ACG, it's going to look a little bit more saturated and weird. But as soon as you convert it, so for example, utility linear REC or sRGB. So REC 709 or sRGB. So basically HDRI map was converted to linear sRGB, right? Which is similar to what I was doing there. Like instead of sRGB, I'm using the D60, right? But in your case, if you're calibrated for the monitor, it's going to be sRGB. So yeah, in this case here, they don't mention anything about the raw in this case, but I think raw is more like, let's say, displacement and roughness. That's what I say here. But it works just as fine with if you convert to the current color space. You know, it's like a sRGB, for example. If you use linear, it should be fine. But raw, it shows that it works fine too. And then for the rest, like 16 and 8 bits, JPEG, PNG, blah, 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 the same thing we did there. So utility, sRGB, texture, right? So it's cool. This anything you can you want to know about you know this ins and outs of Arnold, you're gonna find it this page, man. It's really, really complete. You know, it's like has all kinds of stuff, subsurface scattering, all covered, like some traps that you can find with it, you know. But let's go back in here and just finish this part. So let's see Maya again. So once you have this set up in here, going down here, I mean, in the past I was using this apply output transform to render. And one thing that I noticed is that when you render inside of the Maya, the Arnold render view like this, it translates correctly, right? But then when you render something using, let's say, if you go to rendering and you're using, for example, render sequence, right? So that's how we're going to be rendering like multiple images in a sequence, right? Once you have the camera set up, instead of like using the Arnold render view, is going to use Maya's render view. And when you use Maya render view, you're going to generate all those images, and they are not going to have the same treatment as the Arnold render view. So I normally, like in the past, I would use this one, but I start noticing like if I don't apply the output transform to render, this actually applies to the Maya render view. And then in that case, I get like the image is basically like what I get, like the raw image from the Arnold render view. I end up like getting similar, not similar, but it's pretty much like exact the same thing with that render view, which in the past was a problem. You know, it's like some people were asking like how you get the color to match between the two if I'm rendering like a kind of like a render sequence, right? And in that case here, I'm just like turning off the render transforming here. But then there is a trick, which is basically right here. Let's see if I can find it here. So use output transform. So basically this one here, let me see if I'm gonna have to double check this, but I believe I was actually switching to the view transform instead of like output transforming here. And that would give me like the image that I was getting like corresponding to the one I have like in the Arnold render view. But I'm gonna confirm that, and then tomorrow when we start doing the render, I have everything set for you guys, so there is no doubt about this stuff. But yeah, so back in here, once you have like this set up with those same view transforms in here, this one I can actually switch to the one, my favorite one in there, which is gonna be this one here, right? I can switch to it. Oh man, it's taking a little while. I hope it doesn't crash. I got a crash in the past. Oh, it actually worked. So I'm gonna leave again like as an option, but in your case, probably like sRGB should work fine. But if you want to try the speed P3D60, you can do that, which is basically like matching what I have in here. So that's going to be the view transform. And then once you have everything in place, you just click save, right? Down here is just for Play Blast, so I'm not even using Play Blast. It doesn't matter, right? And everything else here is default. It's basically what Maya suggested. When I click save, I got this in the past that it gave me an error saying that something happened like this, like a permanent script job cannot be killed, blah, blah, blah. But it's still saving it. So let me just confirm it. I hope you guys are not getting those troubles, but my Maya, man, got so wacky lately.
I think that 2020 is wacky.
Yeah, right? Like it got very wacky, man. Like I remember like 2019 was fine. And then it corrupts my environment file all the time now. I mean, like, I don't know what it is, but
I had issues with the viewport. Like I opened a scene in 2019 and I was working flawlessly. And then 2020 was like super slow.
Oh man. Oh, it's understandable because it's such a cheap piece of software, right? Like, it doesn't cost anything. It's like a free piece of software. Yeah, it sucks, man. But anyway, see, like some stuff is kind of wacky here. Like the colors changed. What's going on with my computer, man? There's something going on with it. Anyway, but yeah, so that's basically the way you set up ACES, right? And all the ins and outs, how we're gonna be rendering things and extracting the color, it's like, and making sure that this translates when you get out of Maya. We don't have like a tool that actually, it's like, for example, like if I render something in ACES here, right? And if I save this image in here as a PNG, for example, it's going to look exactly the way you see here in Maya, right? But if you save this file as an EXR, then it looks completely different. It's completely different from what you see because it's like a floating point and all this stuff, like a 32-bit image, and it's completely different. It's completely washed out and everything. I have a couple of values that I use to actually convert it to make sure that it translates, even though it's a 32-bit image that looks very different for being EXR. There is a correspondence like that I use. It's like I have a couple of filters I use in Photoshop to actually approximate really, really close. It's almost like a one-to-one translation between one and the other one. So I can actually tell you guys, how to do that tomorrow as well when we're doing the renders. But yeah, you have a couple of options in here that we're going to use. For example, here, like you have this view transform, you have like the display settings, and then you can actually, again, like match whatever format you have here, whatever color space that you have. And then there is this apply gamma and exposure here that's going to be according to this. For example, if you're doing tweaks right here, right? If you're doing some tweaks right here, just like kind of like a faking some stuff here inside of it, you can actually save an image that carries those changes with it, right? So let me just go back to 1 and 0 here. But you're probably not going to be using this one. We're going to try to do all our changes instead of like faking things too much. If there's not enough light, we're going to try to increase the intensity of the light, it's like play with the textures and things like that, and make sure we are faking very little, it's like, so we can actually get things going that way. So for now, I'm just going to save the scene the way it is again. I'm going to overwrite the past one. So that's what it is. And then we're going to jump right back to ZBrush. And I'm going to start like with a very quick sketch today, right? Like I'm going to start a quick sketch just so we can get like something we can render tomorrow. And then it's going to be a very free kind of sketch. You're going to see like in my past videos, it's like stuff I posted on Instagram. Sometimes I start with a sphere. Sometimes it's a cube. Sometimes it's like a base mesh, right? But the problem with the base mesh is like the human brain is a little bit too lazy, It's like, so if you start with a base mesh that has already like a structure in itself, instead of your brain trying to search for those forms constantly, it's like in align things, it's almost like you pull things a little bit and it's like, oh yeah, the eyes look like, they're already in a good position, so I'm not going to even change it. So it's almost like you get too lazy when you have a base mesh, to the point that sometimes you're too afraid of destroying something that was already there. And just you don't go as far as you can go, So I'm gonna do something kind of in between. You know, it's like you're going to use a base mesh that that ZBrush provides. That's just the planar face, which is a very kind of crappy model, by the way. It's even like the planes. I don't completely agree with some of the planes in there. I think some of them are, you know, not even that helpful. But it's what's that?
Better than the demo head.
Yeah, exactly. The demo head is terrible, isn't it? But at least there is something in there, you know. It's like instead of like having to start from zero, like from a sphere, at least we have something. So we're going to start like adjusting things a little bit here and there, and try not to go super high res from the get-go. But again, like you see, like my past videos, you know, sometimes I go high res from the get-go, and I treat it as it is a piece of clay, right? Like having lots of clay build up and everything. And then sometimes I keep it low res, you know, it's like it all depends on the mood, you know. But today I'm probably going to start like with a very low res kind of mesh and then keep building from it. So I'm just going to switch to ZBrush now. Just going to go here. So we're here in ZBrush. All right. Let's see if my tablet is working, otherwise it would suck. And then you're going to go to your light box, and then you have this head planes in here. That's the demo head right there. That's bad, man. That was like, yeah, that was back in the day. So let's get this one. It doesn't matter which one, you know. It's like he has like a female and male, as if it was super precise, right? Like there's not a lot of precision in there. So I'm gonna get the male one here, and just get this one. It's kind of crappy like that, right? Some of the planes are very wacky. You know, like this chamfered right in the middle in there. They don't quite like that, but I understand the purpose, I guess, like to get the philtrum and, you know, in relation to the chin, but not super cool. So the problem about ZBrush, right, as you know, is that it's not a real camera. I know that they put all this effort in the last versions to actually fix the camera. There is even like a way you can export the camera back to Maya and from Maya back to ZBrush, right? But even that is not super precise, man. So I never trust completely. There is this weird thing that always happens when you have a model that's like, let's say, like you just have the head in here. The perspective looks like this, right? But then if I add a full body, right? Just like import another mesh that has a full body, and I just focus exactly in the same position right here, the perspective changes because like now there's a bigger object in the screen. So it's almost like it calculates the bounding box, you know, it's like in change perspective, which is very weird. So I never trust it completely. But since we're going to be working just from the head like this, you can, let's try to do like a little bit more correct. So instead of 35, that's the default in here, I'm going to switch to 50 or 85. Let's start with something like we did in Maya. Let's say like maybe like 60. Well, 85. Let's try 85. So starting with 85, so that's basically the perspective, right? If I press P, perspective off, perspective on. So it's not that far, it's a little bit flat, so it should be good enough. So let me just pull my reference in here. Ideally, I would just minimize this, not minimize, but bring this image to the side, like the screen to the side, and then just like put my reference on the side so you guys could see what I was doing. But because we have this problem, this technical problem that Zoom created for us today, I'm gonna have to figure out how to, you know, share my screen and then go from there. So you're just gonna get my my reference on the side here, which is gonna be, I'm gonna switch very quick here just so you guys can see again stuff I'm gonna be referring to. I'm just gonna go here, share. So basically it's something in between this image here, right? Which is pretty cool, it has an interesting nose and everything, but zero detail, right? Like it's very, very mushy. I mean, I cannot see much in there. And something like this, right? I'm gonna be using kind of like those two. Again, like this was a tiny piece of the painting itself. Like it's a smaller part of the paint. So I'm gonna have to imagine a lot of this stuff, you know. But, you know, at least like for the structure of the face, I can get a couple of clues from there. So let's start with this images here. Like you see, like I don't have a lot of reference going on, but it's gonna be an interesting project. We're gonna be talking about like the techniques and everything for matching likeness starting tomorrow. So yeah, we have plenty of stuff coming up, so don't worry too much. But for now, I'm just gonna open this, like maybe open a few of those images on the side here. And I'm gonna start doing a little sculpting. Let's get like 1, 2, those 2 here to start with. So they're in my second monitor right here. So when I approach the form, it's like the difference between working with traditional and digital is that to work traditional, you have to nail all the proportions from the get-go, right? There's no room for mistake. I mean, like if you get the distance between the eyes and the base of the nose to the chin and all this stuff, if they are out of place, you cannot start putting like secondary forms and all this stuff straight away, because they're going to start falling apart, right? So you have to nail things from the get-go. But because of if you're using digital art, I mean, like you have a lot of flexibility. A lot of this stuff you can just like, you can start adding like secondary forms, and all of a sudden like, oh, I'm going to change this entire area and just like pull the nose down. And, so it's much more flexible than doing traditional, right? There's a lot of advantages of doing this. The greatest disadvantage I think we have in relation to the traditional is that you don't have an exact idea about the form itself, right? Like something you can touch and look at the same time, it's not there, right? So it's kind of like there's a disconnect. I mean, like sculpting something with your hands, you can actually feel and understand the form three-dimensionally, right? But if you're just looking at a screen like this, just spinning around, sometimes you don't have that same context. And the other thing is that renders, right? Like you have like an actual sculpture, you take a picture, it doesn't matter how crappy the lighting is, it's gonna look real because it is real, right? And then when you're trying to simulate that, you have to create all those, cheats and everything to make sure that things look realistic, right? But in general, I mean, like it's about observation, which is the point that we have in common. And your ability to actually translate those forms into a three-dimensional object, right? So you're gonna see that the brushes I use the most is gonna be the move brush and the clay build-up. The clay build-up, I set it up like to 3, sometimes 2 for intensity, so very, very low intensity. And I have this carve brush here, which is basically like my replacement for the DEM standard, right? It's just like a very simple brush, which digs kind of like sharp in the middle, and then it fades away a little bit. So my settings for it are basically this. So I start with a standard brush, right? Start with the standard brush, and then I clone it. So you go to brush, and then you clone it, right? So you create a copy of it. And then once you have that copy, you add alpha number 39 to it. So you're just gonna click and then add alpha 39. And then I'm gonna change the alpha. So click alpha modify. And then under the adjustment here, alpha adjust, I make this point here. Try to imagine this is a pan upside down, right? So this is the tip right here at the top. So basically like I make it very sharp, and then there is this, kind of like fades away like this. And then that's gonna be like the way I'm gonna be carving. And on top of that, in the stroke, I'm gonna go to stroke, lazy mouse. You see like I have lazy mouse on, and by default, lazy mouse is 0.2, but I'm doing like 1/10 of that. So it's 0.02 in here. That prevents that dotted line, it's like sometimes get a very, very dotted line. So this makes sure that everything is like very, very smooth, right? And that's basically it. And then after I have this set up, I just save this, like save the brush. And I actually added this little custom icon in there, right? But you don't need to. And then once you have that saved, I mean, like you can save in your startup area, startup brushes. And then once you open your ZBrush, you have everything available in here, right? So that's what I have right now. So standard brush with a little bit more pointy, right? The reason why I don't use the DEM standard is just because it tends to pinch things, and I like to have things always deformed according to the surface. Otherwise, my displacement maps, I'm always afraid that they're gonna be a little wacky, it's like distort in a certain way because I don't use the anything 3D, right? I don't use 3D displacements. It's just like regular. So let's start by doing some sculpting here. I'm gonna start by moving stuff around very roughly, right? I'm gonna start like trying to get like some areas of you know, reference. For example, the length of the nose, right? Length of the nose in relation to the eye cavity. So I try to triangulate things, right? So if I have the eye cavity right here, I'm gonna see, for example, like if I have the eye around this area, I want to make sure that the nose is going to have enough distance between that area and the base of it, right? And then from that point on, I can just like sketch, like you can treat this whole thing as if it was like a clay sculpture, right? So you basically like you can simply like draw the surface, you know, it's like you can add like, you know, it's like if you want to define your zygomatic bone in there, you can do stuff like that. This is just a sketch, so you just want to make sure that, you know, it's like we have things, you know, just like a little references here and there. So if you have the nasolabial fold in there, you can just like sketch a little bit, you know. But so we're going to start with that, and let's start like tweaking this proportions here a little bit. So we're going to have to add some lips, obviously. So this one, I'm going to go a little bit higher like that. Some of those planes, like I said, I don't like the way they are in there, but we're going to be tweaking them eventually. We're going to bring this bridge in here inwards. Gonna bring the tip of the nose. It has this pointy tip right there. We're gonna have to figure it out as we sculpt. Let's start with the little carve brush in there, just like get a little bit more of that dialed in. And this is gonna be, you know, it's like the resolution here is only 62,000 polys, right? So it's very, very low res at this point. So let's start like adding a little bit of the clay build-up in here. So clay build up intensity at 3. I'm just gonna build up enough to have like some upper eyelids, right? Some upper eyelids, like just a little bit like that. Can actually make this top area a little bit deeper again. And then I can pretend like there is an eyeball in there, just like add a little volume underneath. We're gonna be refining this. Probably gonna keep like between this resolution and maybe one more, and then kind of like not more than that, you know, it's like for our initial sketches. Just gonna incorporate a little bit of this lower eyelid in there. So it's kind of like, you know, just having something to start from, like this model here, that's always useful, you know, it's like instead of like having to find everything and it's still not using like a natural base mesh, right? Like I said, lazy. It makes you very lazy when you use like a full-on base mesh. But using like a planar crappy model like this, that's good. So we're just gonna start actually wrapping around this area here. So that's gonna be our zygomatic bone. It's gonna start around here. Start wrapping around. You're gonna have like your orbital in there. So we're gonna make sure that this area here has a little bit more volume. He has a very, very pronounced, the brow ridge in here is very well, it's very strong on him in there. So we're gonna just build some of that. I'm gonna dig this area here. This is important actually. This area here, sometimes you take for granted, this depth around here.
You could probably put your reference in there with Spotlight.
With Spotlight, yeah. I'm terrible with those things, man. Technology, you know. Yeah, I see people put a lot of them on the side. Kind of, yeah. Like once we have a model that can actually have it more, a little closer to what we're going to be sculpting, I can actually do something better for you guys here, and then we can compare things. But for sketching here, we're good. So the muzzle area is something that we normally have to add quite a bit of volume, right? And this area here, when you look from the profile, you're definitely going to have to imagine, like, you know, it's like you have the arc of the teeth in there, right? It makes that curvature. So when you look from the bottom here, you have to make sure that that's reflected, right? So that you have the similar, you know, arc. Oops. My smooth is super strong here. Let's do like maybe like 20, something like that. So just gonna add a little bit more volume in here. And then because he's an older guy, obviously like he's gonna have a little bit, not older, but seems like he's like 35, maybe 40 in there. It was a rough life back in the day, man. Those guys like at 35, they look like 50. But just add a little bit more of that. And then we're gonna start getting this down to his jowls in here. So I'm gonna start make a little bit longer this whole area here. And we're gonna be covering this later. So let's just define the position here for this wrinkle here for his chin. Dig that. And then the chin it's an interesting one because a lot of people actually sculpt as a single form, right? And the cool thing is that at least this, you know, it's like planar model has a little bit of a mention of that, which is basically like we normally treat it as like 3 forms. So basically like you have like a central form in here, that's little ball here in the middle, and you have the side ones. I'm gonna just shave this thing here. So you basically like have like those 2 forms coming from the sides, and they end up like mixing with the central form in here. And then this gives this impression sometimes when you look someone with a very kind of like squarish chin, is just because those side forms here, they're pretty strong. But and then obviously, like as you get a little bit more delicate chin, right, you start getting more of you know, a little bit less strong like that, so it gets a little thinner. But let's just build this one up to the side right here. And then I'm gonna probably eat a little bit of that, just add a little bit of depth. Just get this little carving here. Let's see, the nostrils are pretty open. I'm just gonna start carving this. If I don't have enough resolution, I'm gonna start actually gonna subdivide once more. But for now, it should be okay. And then let's look at the shape of the cranium in here. One thing that happens, there's another website I posted in there for you guys. I can actually show you this right now, which is kind of interesting. Is this, let's see, stop. Let's share this. Let's see, there's a link in here that I posted. It's right there at the welcome letter. That's it's called like Human Body Sliced, which sounds a little creepy, right? But it looks like this. Check this out. So this is a very cool one because you can click this little bar down there, and you can see all the slices of the human body, right? So when you get to the head part, I mean, like it's not gigantic here. Let's see if I can make it bigger. No, I can't. I wish I could. Oh, there's a zoom here. Let's see. That might work. Can you see that one?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so right here, when you get to the head, you see that the front part around the, you know, the brows in here, it's narrower than the back of the head, right? So you're gonna have the ears around here, and behind the ears, it gets a little bit wider, right? And then it starts getting a little bit, with women, it's a little bit more even, you know, it's like normally you're gonna get this area here a little bit more even with the back of the head, but for men, it's normal like you have this very oval shape. And then when you get around here, when you're seeing the eyeball, this is right in the middle of the eyeball right here, then it's a little bit more even, right? Like, so you see like, but when you get like from the top in here, it's pretty much like it's a nag, right? Like it's narrow on the top and then wider at the bottom. But let's just get this out of here. Let's go back to ZBrush. So that's basically what we're gonna have to be working with when you look at the head from the top. So let's first like smooth out some of those angles in here. We can always rebuild some of those, but let's start by adding something here. Let's treat this as a clay sculpture, right? So just gonna be drawing this area here, basically like the temporalis, right? So just like reinforcing in there. But then I'm gonna bring this out. I'll bring this out slightly. And then just like we saw right there in the in that cut. So basically like the eyebrows are around here. But then here in the back of the head, I'm gonna add a little bit more volume. Make more of an oval shape and smooth it out.
Do you use Sculptress Pro much?
Sorry?
Do you use Sculptress Pro much?
Yes, Sculptures is really cool, man. The thing about Sculptures is that sometimes I get too excited about it and I forget about the, you know, it's like that the size of the brush influences the amount of subdivision, right? Mm-hmm. So sometimes I go like too small. For example, like if I'm carving something with this little brush here, and then as you carve, it's going to subdivide a ton in that area there. And then the thing that I want to make sure that I do is that my history is saved completely, because I want to post like from beginning to end, this whole thing here, this whole session as you know, like a time lapse later. And then sometimes with Sculptures, I go too crazy with it, with like those things, and then ends up like it eats my history, man. And then all of a sudden I cannot save the whole thing, you know. So I'm kind of trying to avoid it this time, just to. But later on, I can actually turn it on. Just to, I just have to make sure I use like broad brushes, because yeah, definitely like the small one's gonna subdivide it too much. But Sculptures is so good. I love it. Just gonna, you know, let's do this. Back of the head. There is a line here that's an interesting one. I mean, like if you get the zygomatic as a reference in here. So this line here, let's say, start going back in here, and then you're gonna get this line here connecting around here. Basically, like there's a line that goes, it's almost like a kind of like a little curve that starts at the bottom of the zygomatic bone in here, and it goes to the back. And then that's basically like it finds like the deepest part of the head, but it's not too far from what they have in here. And then around here, you're gonna have your sternocleidomastoid process, right? So you're gonna have a little, it's almost like a triangle like that. And then from here, you're gonna get like your, right? Like it's so wacky here with this super wide neck. But one spot's gonna connect to your clavicle, which is gonna be around here. Let's see. So the sternum, we're gonna be more towards here. So that's gonna connect to that. And then it's gonna come to the side. This is like super, super thick. Actually, let's see, this one. This one's gonna connect to right there to the to your sternum. And then the side one is gonna connect to the clavicle. Gonna have a little side, little leg in there. But let's tweak this, otherwise you're not gonna get there ever, because this neck looks so wacky. Let's get it thinner. Oops. And I'm gonna get this part here a little bit wider as well, because not too much, but a little bit. And then now I can.
Chris, we can't hear you very well. Your voice, your sound's going out.
The sound is gone?
Yeah.
Can you hear me now?
It's really quiet.
It's a bit slower, like it drops some of the voice, like it's a bit slower, and then it automatically gets back to normal after some time.
Really?
Yeah.
This is the second time your audio's kind of cut out and then cut back in. For some reason, you're really quiet right now.
Oh man, what's going on, dude?
Yeah, now it's like back to normal.
It's normal now? You guys can hear me?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
It's a bit.
Yeah. Man, I'm pretty sure this is related to this this update, man. Because one thing that I was convinced to use Zoom before is because it doesn't matter how bad your computer is, it's always smooth, right? That's what I'm using it for like a year and a half now. But I'm really afraid of what they had done with it, man. Because
hey Chris, I've been told that if you use the browser version, it might solve the problem. I just spoke to someone on the phone, and they said that maybe you can use the Zoom in browser. I don't know if it's a solution for tomorrow, maybe, or a temporary solution.
The one that what do you mean by browser? Because the one I'm using is the browser version.
It's not an app then on your
There's
computer.
a standalone, yeah.
Yeah, mine is I'm using the browser right now, but I think he actually triggers the standalone, right, when you do it.
Yeah.
He said if you sign out of the app, or it will stop you going straight to the app, and then you can use it in browser apparently.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'm gonna I'm gonna do something tomorrow. Like I'm gonna log in earlier so we can do a, if any of you guys are present, we can do a few tests here and there. But definitely gonna have to dig into what's going on with this, man, because I'm not trusting it at this point. My computer in general is acting a little weird while Zoom is on. So I'm not sure. I'm not sure what kind of spying program they're putting. Yeah. Oh, I'm really sorry, guys. I wish I could just foresee what's going on.
It's okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Technology is fickle.
Yeah, it's supposed to get better, right? Not worse.
These updates are getting way too complicated.
I know, man. I don't understand.
Like playing whack-a-mole.
I know. It's amazing, man. Like I was telling people before, it's like I used Maya for like close to 20 years, and I'm still lost. Because like every new version, they change the menu positions. It's like they change some items like for modeling and stuff. They keep changing things, and then sometimes I try to find them. I was like, what's going on here? But yeah, dude, I just don't know.
Sometimes they even change the names of the split polygon is now multi-cut.
Yes, exactly. It's like, dude. Yeah, for people like teaching classes like this, this computer here, in between this class and the previous one, I barely touched it. So basically, like everything that was working before should work just fine. And then yesterday, I installed this new Zoom, and the first thing I noticed is that my microphone was not working, right? So I tried a bunch of things and it wasn't working. It was when Gloria was actually online yesterday. And then the only way to solve it, I actually had to uninstall both my microphone and the camera. And then basically remove all the drivers and then restart Windows and let Windows decide what drivers to pick. And then he solved the problem. But yeah, it's just like, man, out of nowhere. So what I'm going to do here is just build some quick lips in here. So I'm just going to start by sketching something like this. Going to be very simple for now. Just going to build up like this one a little bit more. You want to make sure you have mostly like an upper bite and not like an underbite, right? Otherwise it looks very weird when you have this very large like lower lip. And then here, let's just carve this area a little bit more. And we're going to start actually filling up this area here. Smooth it out. And let's just, since this guy has a big stash, let's just like build one in here very quickly. It's going to be a crappy one. This is like as a concept, man, like really don't worry too much. We have to get the proportions fairly in place in the first day, right? And then the next days we're gonna keep like refining this. And then when you get to Thursday, we should have something that's good enough for a projection, so we can project to the base mesh. And then with that in hands, then it's a different thing, right? Like then we're gonna start actually next week already detailing, and it's like working on the secondary and detailing all this stuff. So I'm just gonna do like a Z tool extracting here. Let's do, that looks too close. Let's see if I can open a little gap in there. I want to make sure that I have a little, oops, a little gap. Let's see if that works. Yeah, there you go. That should be crappy enough, except, and then let's do this one. Good. Let's just paint this guy so I can get a little different color. So let's go to RGB, color, fill object, switch back to white. Right there. And then let's get a little bit of sculpting here just very quickly. Make sure that we have something that resembles a stash in here. Really smooth. Here you go, and then just pull this tip in here out.
It looks done. You can add the pores now.
Yeah, exactly. Let's add pores, man. It's ready for it.
I know, right? Jump the gun.
I know. But that's the thing that's interesting, right? Like when people see the renders, right? Like the first thing that's like, oh, the pores, and it seems like the pores become like everything that's important in the model, right? And there's so much more if we have to pay attention. Like the primary forms have to be really good, right? Something that you can look from a distance, you can actually identify like as something that's recognizable, right? But then you know, if you get too caught up with pores, man, you're screwed. But it's definitely that juicy part, right? Something that people really, you know, like watching, and it's definitely really
hard to get that far though.
yeah. But let's see. Okay, so now we have a little stash. It's easier to see the face. His eyes don't look very big in my references. They are kind of small. I'm going to start actually digging this area here a little bit and trying to build. I think at this point here, I can actually go one step further. So I'm going to subdivide once more and then just dig this a little bit more. The distance between the eyes, obviously, it has to be about one eye, right? So from the corner here of the caruncula to the outer corner, you're going to have basically like this distance is going to have to be translated to the center in here, like one eye in between the two eyes in terms of distance. So you're going to just make sure that they are big enough that they fill up that area. One thing that happens as well is that the eyes, when you look from the profile, like both corners, they have to be fairly in the same spot, right? So if I look from the bottom like this, and this corner here is not deep enough, and this one here is like it's way too deep, I'm going to have to actually level that, right? So bring things out a little bit and make sure that, you know, the eyes are fairly in a similar positioning here. And there is always an offset. Obviously, this is such a very beginning of a sculpt that you cannot actually see much, but there is an angle that happens between the top eyelid in relation to the eyeball itself, in relation to the bottom lip, that you're gonna need, like, there is an angle here, right? Like it's if you have them like almost at the same level, so like both eyelids are at the same level, like the same depth, they look so fake, you know. It's like but once you have one that's more forward than the other one, so the top one more forward than the top one, than the bottom one, then things start to look more natural, you know. So I'm gonna cut this a little bit more right here. I'm gonna fill up this area. It's a little crappy right there.
I guess almost like how the top lip is forward a little more than the bottom lip, like you were saying. Maybe that could be a key rule.
Yeah, exactly. And the eyeball, instead of like sitting like pretty much like right in the middle, the eyeball is normally a little bit higher. So basically, like if you have your iris, instead of like sculpting the iris right here, which makes the character look crazy, right? You basically sculpt it a little bit higher. So that means that the eyeball itself is a little bit higher. And then the lower part of the iris almost touches the lower eyelid. And then most of the iris, not most, but like the top part of the iris is hidden between behind the top lid, you know. So that adds a little bit more of a naturalistic looking. And there is also the rotation of the eyeball itself. If you make it like completely straight, so basically like looking straight at you, it's pretty much like certain that when you render, it's going to look cross-eye. So what I normally do, I just like place the eyeballs in there, and then I rotate them outwards about like 3 degrees, and that adds a little bit more of a naturalistic look. You know, it's like it basically forces the character to look to a distant spot. You know, basically like instead of like looking to your finger, right, like it's straight away, it's almost like you're focusing on something like in a mountain that's really far away, and that adds a little bit of that. It's almost like you add a little bit of thought to your character. You know, it's almost like your character has thoughts. It's like lost in thoughts. You know, it's like looking at some distant thing. So that really adds. But yeah, we're gonna get into that for like really. That's one of the most important parts actually you're gonna get into, because that's where the life of your character is gonna be. You know, it's like eye is gonna be everything about it, and convincing skin obviously, but the eye is definitely.
Yeah, I've always noticed that if you just duplicate an eyeball over, you know, symmetrical, yeah, it looks weird. I do have to kind of turn them out, and I'm happy to know that was a good thing to do.
Yeah, definitely. Like if you rotate them out, some people rotate more than 3 degrees actually, but I think 3 degrees is pretty good.
Well, it depends on where they're looking too.
Yeah, that too. But yeah, like when I do those renders, right? Like especially the ones from below. Let's see, like let's get this here. Let's see. Yeah, let's share this one. So yeah, stuff like this. Oh yeah, I cannot do that. I have to actually share just that. Let's see. Yeah, I like this type of scene, you know, it's like that the character looks like it's almost like looking up a little bit like this. A little bit offset to the side, you know, it's like, and definitely like the eyes are never like straight away, like looking to a fixed spot, you know, it's like it's close. It's a little bit more split, you know, it's like they are looking to different directions very slightly. So like looking out in both ways here. So you end up like creating an impression that the character is looking somewhere else, you know, it's like it's almost like lost in thought, you know, it's like, yeah, so it's yeah, every single one of them have this thing, you know, that the gaze is kind of like lost, like, yeah. So,
it's like
the pondering.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, character has to look alive. Let's see. Let's go back to this guy. All right, so this guy here. Let's go back to the reference. We already passed the time a little bit, but like I said, I mean, like we wasted so much time with the rest of stuff that I'm gonna try to push this a little bit further. His nose actually in the reference, it looks longer. So I'm gonna be working on that. So I'm gonna be pulling this area inwards a little bit. His eyebrow is gonna go in. The slope of the head, like women tend to have a little bit more squarish, right? And men have more of a slope. In his case, I'm gonna do a little bit more, I'm gonna add a little bit more of that forehead, but then I'm gonna try to shave this area here a little bit to remove some of those planes very slightly. There is a triangle that happens around here, right? Like you have your temporalis lining here going to the sides, right? You're gonna go all the way around there. And then you're gonna have another line that's gonna come this way and it's gonna wrap around the eyebrow around here. So you get like this little triangular area right around here. I'm gonna just make it very strong. So you get that little triangle in there. And this actually ends up wrapping around and creating this. And then they become more shallow and they become more like it's a different structure almost, you know, it's like it becomes like micro wrinkles connecting each other, but without the pores themselves being super visible. So you're still gonna see, you're still gonna see like pores, for example, like in the tip of the nose, the muzzle, even like older people are gonna have there, probably around the chin. But then when you get to this area here, which in a younger person is gonna be one of the most visible parts, they are like for an older person, like 80 years old or older than that, you almost don't see them, you know, it's like it becomes this super paper thin skin and the pores kind of release. It's a weird thing, you know, but I still sculpt all of them just so I have them in place. But then I go and I start blending things, you know, it's like to get things to look more natural. But it's so interesting when you add all those pores in an older person, it doesn't match, you know. It's like if you have like a super old model and you start adding all those pores everywhere, it never looks correct, you know. It's like it's almost like you have to go easy with the pores when it's an older guy.
Wow, that's interesting. I never saw that or analyzed that.
Yeah, tomorrow we're gonna look at this references from like the gigapan, right? Like the super high resolution images. And we're gonna go like really close to the skin and we're gonna look at some of the younger people and the older people, the types of skin. And you're gonna see the differences in there, man. It's pretty interesting.
Yeah, I was noticing that on a couple of sculpts I've been working on. Like you see eyes all your life.
Yeah.
You really don't look how they're constructed.
Exactly, man. Yeah.
And it's hard because you you put it in like a kindergartner would,
Mhm.
and you go, no, that's not right. And then you keep moving it around and moving around. That's so frustrating for me.
No, it is, man. It's frustrating for everybody, you know. It's like I get in trouble all the time with my models, and it's kind of like a sometimes I resort to brute force, you know.
Yeah.
And that's one thing that I encourage people to do too. You know, so sometimes we get too precious with our models. We see something like, oh, you know, it looks good enough. I don't want to touch too much, otherwise I'm gonna destroy that part and blah blah. And I tell you, man, like once you relax with that and you just like brute force everything, and you know, it's like, yeah, this part here, I want it right here. You know, it's like you don't go a tiny bit and just like, you know, you're just like, yeah, I need it right there, and then I later I come back to it. Let's see what happens, you know. But you have to be less precious about the model. It's just a study, you know. And at some point we're gonna, you know, if everything goes right, we're gonna keep improving on it. And another thing that I noticed is like the in terms of the facial structure, right? Like sometimes like you're gonna notice in certain people, the nose itself, this whole area is more projected like that, right?
Mm-hmm.
But overall, I mean, like I tend to keep this area, try to keep it a little bit more harmonic in a way. For example, like trying to treat this as a curve that starts right here, it goes all the way, you know. So it basically like it gives me a kind of a reference point for me to find this spot right here in the nose itself, because sometimes people build this, for example, the nose is like all the way here, you know, so it doesn't look, it looks disconnected from the nasolabial, when in fact they have to be completely connected. So basically, like, let me just correct what I just did in there, but you know, it's like it's having like a basically like this is a continuation, right? Like, so basically like you're gonna have your nasolabial lining here going and wrapping around right there. There's a bunch of planes as well. For example, like with the nose, sometimes we tend to build it too round everywhere. So like you just like make everything round. But then you see like, for example, just that plane that I have between this and this already give me an idea. If, for example, like I can carve in here and add a little plane right around this area here as well, which is going to be kind of like echoed by the nostril itself, right? They're going to have that. Right around here, I can actually build another plane that's going to define the whole nostril area. So sometimes it's good like to just like introduce some stuff that not necessarily is there like screaming at you, but you can use as a reference to incorporate more interesting forms, you know. It's like and always using rhythm, you know. So for example, like if you have like a very straight line running from one place to another one, you can end that line with a curvature and vice versa, you know. It's like you start with a curve and then you end with a little bit more straight line. You add more rhythm to it, you know. It's always fascinating to me, like every new model, it's almost like, I don't know, man, like I approach each one of them as a completely different thing, you know. It's like it's almost like everything I learned from the previous one, I kind of relearned, but not because I cannot repeat what I did. It's just, you know, it's like curious about, okay, is this the correct way to do it? There is another way to do it. So always like very free in the way that I approach like every single sculpture, you know. It's like I try not to you know, obviously I have my formulas for creating the pores and all this stuff, because that stuff but like how to approach like the beginning of a sculpture. I mean, like you look at the videos of people teaching like traditional sculpting, and there's so many different ways to start, man. You see like people starting sometimes just like with a ball of clay and just like slapping, you know, it's like getting like a very rough model and then refine it from that point on. But some people, they just like, they are more focused on adding for example, like the muscles straight on, like in the correct spots already. So it starts much more organized than other people, you know. I am a little bit more chaotic, I would say, like when I start my models, and I'm kind of like the kind of person that refines as I go, but I just want to have form in there, you know. It's like I want to have enough digital clay in certain areas so I can actually start figuring out the relationships later. But definitely like distances and things like that, I really like to have them kind of like you know, it's like a close enough from the beginning. You know, this is between like the bottom of the nose to in relation to the eyes. You know, it's like where the mouth is going to sit in relation to the chin. So in this case here, looks like it's a little bit low. So I'm going to bring it up slightly. And then let's add his mustache again. But yeah, so and other than that, I mean, like this whole thing here, I was just sketching like the sternocleidomastoid mastoid in here. I mean, there's the kind of stuff like if you have someone with a zero fat, right, you're gonna be able to see it. But in his case here, is the kind of stuff like I'm gonna do completely, you know, once I have it in place, I can just smooth it out and have a little bit more naturalistic look for it instead of like a.
Looks great.
Thanks.
It looks great so far.
Thanks, man.
Chris, sir? Yeah, go ahead.
I'm sorry?
I have a quick question if you don't
mind.
Yes. For example, if you already know, like, you know, those like quick tips in terms of like structure, like the sternocleidomastoid and stuff, but how can you start adding fat in between if you want?
Adding what?
How can you add like fat or maybe softness in terms of those details? Because you may know the structure, but you don't know that much about, like, I don't know, make it more I don't know, more like a girl or more like a fat woman, or in terms of like twisting those features or details in terms of like
yeah, that's the thing, right? Like, I mean, like if you're working with someone who has very soft forms, like someone young, like a child or a woman, right? Everything is so incredibly subtle. Things are in the exact same place, obviously, but the thing is like, if you have like someone very young, you have like all those fat pads that are basically underneath the skin. So in between the bone structure and your skin, you're gonna have like those fat pads. If you look for example, like if you Google like facial fat pads, right? You're gonna see like that originally when you're young, they are all against each other. So basically like they're on top of each other. So everything is covered and everything is super soft. So you don't have a lot of drastic differences in terms of like changing direction in forms, right? So you're not gonna have like a super chiseled jawline or something like that, because everything is it's super soft. As you age, all those fat pads, they start kind of dissolving, you know, and as they dissolve, they reveal more and more of the bone structure, and then you're going to get something more like this, you know. It's like you're going to start seeing more of what's going on underneath the skin. But yeah, once you why we don't have that, I mean, like if you're working with like a young model and stuff like that, you have to rely on the surface, the anatomy of surface, basically, right? So it's a combination of having to pay attention to all the major forms. I would say like the secondary forms become very important, right? Sometimes like I would say like they're just as important as the primary forms, but yeah, it's super tricky, man. Like it's the hardest thing to sculpt is always like children and women, like especially like young women. But it's kind of like a how can I say it? The challenges are different, you know, because in terms of the amount of detail we can add to an older person is obviously like you can do a lot of stuff with it. So sculpturally, it's a great exercise, right? But then in terms of the control of the form, it's much harder to control the form when you have less information, you know. It's almost like if you want to draw sometimes like a realistic portrait with a pencil, sometimes it's harder to imagine a simplification of that than it is to copy something that's there in front of you, you know. It's like, so simplifying most of the time is more complicated because it involves abstraction, you know. So yeah.
Chris, sir, I had a quick question.
Yeah.
Yeah, from it's from a couple of classes ahead, if it's fine. Like.
So yeah, no, tell me. Yeah.
I was going for an entire body, like full body character for likeness.
Yeah.
I did the entire like retopology in Maya, like for production, which can be animated. I built the mouth cavity itself attached to the face. I have attached the mouth cavity also to the face. So like when I see the previous classes while you were making Sam, You mentioned that around 70 million polygons in HD geometry, the model should be having so as to capture the entire details back in Maya with displacement. So how much like in poly count should I go with the entire body? I have 32 gigs of RAM right now. So will it be possible if I go to around 100 million or something, or should I go ahead of that?
Oh yeah, I think we should go further than that. I would say like there is a model I was testing this with, was a Hellboy model that I have. And the Hellboy, I actually, so let's say like you have 70 million polygons for head and shoulders, right? So for that Hellboy model, I actually use about, I think between 230 and 250 million in HD geometry. Yeah, I mean, like it's the kind of stuff that you have to see what the project is demanding, right? Because if it is a character, for example, that's fully clothed, right, you can get away with like having like you know, it's like a different objects based, like a cut off kind of model, or you can have a topology that's planned for that, you know. It's like, so you have like much more topology for hands and face only, and then everything else is super low res, you know. You might be able.
The heads itself had some around 12,000 polygons, like at the lowest subdivision level, and like around 8,000 without the mouth cavity.
So 12,000 is for what? Just for the head?
Just for the head with the mouth cavity. The mouth cavity is attached to the head, the tongue and the teeth, everything. I was going for a more production ready model. Like I was testing myself. I did this before. I never posted anything because I was not happy. I think it could improve. So for this lecture, I watched a couple of lectures that you did for Sam, and I retopologized it for production. And this is around 8,000 without the mouth cavity. So I don't think I'll be opening the mouth. So I don't need that much detail on the mouth cavity. But the face itself is around 8,500 polygons.
8,500. So let's see. So for example, 8,500. So that's like, if I multiply that by 4, one subdivision, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So let's say the face itself, if you have that amount of polygons, so 8.5, you can subdivide like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 times, and you get to around 34 million, which is not, which, you know, if it's just the face itself should be okay. But if it's the entire head, it might not be just enough. If subdivide once more, that's too much. That's about 139.
Okay.
So that's like close to 140, right? So basically like 140 is the limit already. So we cannot like if you subdivide this by 4, you get to like 500 million polygons, right? So you're not gonna go that way. But I would say like I normally start planning the opposite way, right? So for example, like if I want the entire body to have something that's workable, let's say you don't want to go all the way to 250 million, like I said, but you don't want to get stuck into around 80 million. That's basically like what we can get in terms of detail for face and shoulders. So let's say you come up with a number that you think is ideal. Let's say like 150 million, right? So 150 million. If I divide that by 4, let's see. You can get to
clothed or unclothed.
Yeah, that's a good question.
Sorry, sir.
Is it clothed or unclothed, your character?
It will be clothed. Right now, the poly count that I mentioned, it's just for the body, like the entire face and the entire body. It will be clothed.
In future, under the clothes.
Yeah, under the clothes. No, I don't think so, sir. It will be entirely clothed.
Yeah, you can definitely get away with a lot in there. I mean, like you can have like the hand separate from the body, you know, as a different object. You can have the body super low resolution and then just like more resolution in the hands. That's basically what we did for King Kong for Skull Island. We actually I had the head like the head was like 250,000 polygons just for the head. This was the base mesh. And then the body was lower, and then the hands were higher because he was covered in fur, right? But there are certain models we just like, you know, we can just chop the model and then have like different things going on. But I did the test here, for example, like if you have like a naked body that you want to have enough detail, but probably like you're not going to be able to do like poor detail everywhere. But let's say like you focus on face and hands, and it's a naked body. If you start with 150 million polygons as your target, you can build a model that has about 36.6 thousand polys for the base mesh. So when you subdivide that by, I don't know, like 5 times, I suppose, then you're gonna reach that 150 million polygons. So it's always good to start like with the final goal, what you want to do, it's like, and then you just divide by 4 and find out what's the best base mesh poly count for your model,
Okay. I plan to detail the hands and the face like very nicely, but the entire body, it would not be detailed as much as the face and the hands.
Okay, yeah, in that case, yeah, man. It's a matter of like making a plan, It's like if it's gonna be worth having everything attached to, to the same model, or if you can get away, it's like with just having things separate.
So I think, sir, for the entire body, 150 million would be like a good suggestion, I guess.
I would say, like, based on my test here, it wouldn't be enough if I want to do like detail in the, for example, if I'm sculpting Hellboy, right? I want to make sure that his arms had like all the detail and everything. So 250, I think it was like 230. It kind of seemed like ideal, for what I needed. Considering like, considering that everything that we do here during this class, the head and shoulder is going to be anywhere between 70 million to about 100 million. So, if you extrapolate that to the rest of the body, then yeah, it's going to be a number at least 200 million polygons.
Okay, sir. Okay, sure. Thank you so much, sir.
No problem. So you're just going to build.
Glad I got more RAM.
Right.
Yeah, I got to upgrade it. It's just 32 right now. 32 gigs. I got to upgrade it.
But you know what? Like I did some tests. I mean, like if you have a model that high, I don't think you go past like, I don't think he ever reaches like 40 gigs, It's like, so if you have 64, you should be really good. But you have 32, like I said before, I'm like, it might not be enough to work with HD,
I'll plan on upgrading it, sir.
Yeah, definitely, man. It's like, it's the kind of stuff, right? Like, oh, let's create like some super high resolution models with poor with poor detail everywhere, and then use like a Pentium. Yeah. Yeah, it doesn't quite work like that. But I was like, man, I was being kind of like a romantic, It's like I had my old machine was how you say, like it's a HP Z620, right? Like one of those workstations. It's basically the same machine I had at work. And I was like, it was good enough, It was like with the old graphics card and everything. I was teaching those classes using it. And I was telling my students, I was like, oh, you know what? I'm going to keep this machine and then keep teaching with it because, I don't want to be like with a machine that's way better than the machines that you're probably using right now. Otherwise, it's going to look a little unfair. It's like I'm going to be doing my renders super fast and you guys are not. And then there was one time, man, I was trying to render some stuff. I got so pissed off that it was so slow. And I was like, you know what? I'm sorry. I'm going to have to get a better machine. So this one here is it's one of those Threadrippers, how you call, like the 3970X. So it has like I think it's like 32 processors, right? So threads. So it's a really good machine. It's like it's still like, there are better machines out there right now, but it's really nice. I mean, like I spent some good amount of money, but when I upgrade my machines, they last like 7-8 years sometimes. It's like my last machine like lasts like 7 years or 8 years. So I'm not planning to update like anytime soon. I was gonna get a lot out of this one for sure.
I was actually planning to get the 64 core, but they announced the new CPU, so I'm waiting to see.
Yes, man, get the new one. Definitely.
I'm waiting to see.
Yeah, those are really cool.
Yeah, I finally had to give up on my MacBook Pro.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, had to go over to Windows and get an MSI still.
I'm trying to keep a balance, like have a good video card and a good CPU, so I can do both GPU and CPU rendering. Because I do use a lot of GPU, but for Arnold, I still believe that CPU is the way to go.
It's so bad still, huh? What do you use for? Like, do you have one of those Corona renders or?
No, I use Redshift and Octane for GPU.
Oh, okay,
But like Arnold is used like perfect. Skin is just perfect compared to the other renders. I have tried everything, and there's no way to get it even close to what Arnold does.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you need a powerful CPU. So I'm basically using right now like an i9, but it's not close to the Ryzen.
Oh yeah, the i9s are good. Yeah, the thing about the Ryzen's, man, and the Threadrippers is that they had some bugs, right? Not bugs. It's just some of the software that was written, like it was written a long time ago, and it was all like with Intel in mind. And then, for example, like the UV, there is a problem with the UV in Maya. That, for example, like if you try to use the new algorithm for UV, it basically like breaks everything in there. You know, it's like you cannot UV using the Threadripper. But then someone actually managed to modify one file that comes with Maya. That's just like for that specific. What's the name of the algorithm they use for it's something 3D.
The 3D Unfold.
Unfold, yeah, Unfold 3D.
Unfold 3D.
So yeah, I posted that link so you guys can download and replace. I don't know if it's a DLL, like a library or something like that. But if you replace that file, the problem goes away. So that was the last thing that was actually lingering, that I was feeling like, oh man, I don't know if my Threadripper is going to be a good option, you know, if I'm not getting all those things working. And the other thing was some instability with ZBrush.
No.
And then I contacted them. And they said that for Threadrippers, if you're getting instability, you can actually go to the power options in your Windows machine. And then there is an option there that says that how you want to use your processor. Like, do you want to use your processor like at 100% power at the maximum, or you want to limit that? So they actually encouraged me to limit that. So instead of like using 100% at peak, I think my computer is set to like 95% at peak. Which is kind of lame, right? You want to use everything you have since you're paying for that. But I think like since they don't know exactly what's causing it, I don't think that, you know, this is kind of like a workaround. So my computer right now is set to work at probably like 95% of the power of it, just to keep ZBrush stable, you know? So yeah.
It's a weird feeling. It's like there's not the perfect machine that you can have everything.
No.
Like Intel is so good. Like I use a lot of After Effects for compositing. And after Intel is basically, you know, like really, really good. It's like super fast. And then AMD is not so fast on Adobe. But then with everything else, yes, like, you know, 3C, a lot of cores you need it, you know? You cannot have both.
Yeah, it's such a powerhouse, man, like in terms of brute force, right? But in terms of, you know, it's like let's say like an ecosystem, right? Like in terms of Intel, I mean, like they are around for such a long time. And then AMD is just like, you know, just recently they became more competitive with all this stuff. And then I think you're going to start seeing a lot of shift, you know, because a lot of companies are shifting to AMD. And it's not like AMD, they are newbies either, right? Like every single video game console that you get, I mean, like it's normally powered with AMDs. So they built their reputation already, you know. It's like, and now this new processor, like the CPUs are getting really, really fast too. The GPUs are getting really fast too. But
GPUs still, I'm hesitant. They're powerful, but NVIDIA, I think, is still a couple years ahead.
Yeah,
regarding like artificial intelligence and you know, the different things they have. Basically, when it comes to GPU, NVIDIA is just so fast. But again, you're bound by the memory.
Yeah, exactly.
Like now you got the 3090, which has 24 gigs of memory, and you can combine it together with another one, and you got 40 whatever. But you know, it's like there's nothing available.
So, yeah, that's the thing, right? Like people are so excited, but then those guys, I don't know what's going on, man. Like, I mean, we never had this ever. And then I'm kind of like, I collect like the mini video games, you know, it's like in old consoles and stuff. I have a big collection of old consoles with all kinds of stuff. And I start collecting those minis. And then I remember when Nintendo released their minis, man, it's almost like they did it on purpose, you know, it's like, and then ended up like generating more interest for the mini console. And then there's all those scalpers around, like on, you know, it's and now it became like the new thing. I mean, like everybody does the same thing. They release a very limited supply, and then everybody wants and generates like this huge interest, right? But at the same time, everybody's pissed because they cannot get their hands on the stuff they're trying to get, you know.
I was day one waiting to upgrade the video cards I have for the 3090s, and I remember it was going to release at 9 in the morning Pacific time, and it was 8:45 and was already sold out. 8:45. I didn't understand how.
No, it's amazing, man. Yeah, I remember like there was a little board that I want to buy that was basically like a replacement for my GameCube, like the video game. There was a board that actually replaces the disk drive with USB. And it's kind of like it's a guy who makes those boards, you know. It's like he released it, and he kind of like said like, okay, we're gonna release it this time, and then he put like a countdown, and then I woke up like at 5:30 in the morning to put my order in there, you know, and I was able to get it. But I remember like it took about 5 to 6 minutes to go everything. He had like probably like 150 of those, and it was gone like in 6 minutes, you know. And imagine like the interest with those guys, right? Like thousands of people, especially the scalpers, waiting to buy to buy a bunch of them. It's so irritating, man. Because you know, as a father, I mean, like I have my kids here, like a 10-year-old and a 7-year-old. And when I play video games, I want to play for fun. I'm not buying stuff to resell and make a quick buck, you know. But then you go to eBay, man. Right now, if you look for PS5 on eBay, it's like those pictures of like people like bragging, you know. It's like with the pile of the PS5s, you know. They have like some ads, like those guys have like a pile of like 10 PS5s. Oh yeah, ready to go, blah blah blah. It's like fuck you.
Yeah, eBay has more stock of everything right now than even Amazon. Like it has everything, all the video cards, all the PS5, Xbox, everything is in there.
Yeah,
for twice the price.
Yeah, all in the hands of scalpers, man. It's amazing. It's close to Christmas, and I understand people are kind of fucked, you know. It's like, so they want to make a quick buck and have their own Christmas, you know. It's like, but it's a little fucked up. I don't like that.
No, it's like when the Tickle Me Elmos came out, and they were going for $1,500.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's pretty insane, man.
And people bought them.
Oh no, that's the crazy part, right? I remember like some people were like, I don't remember exactly when it was released, but someone put a price that was absurd. It was something that cost like $300, and they put a price of $10,000, and it was sold.
If it was not for the quarantine it was cheaper actually to go to UK, buy the 3090 that they had on stock, go back to the US, and actually buy it through eBay. It was like $3,000.
Yeah, that's the thing people did like back in the day with you know, it's like coming to Miami and buying stuff, you know, because there is no you know, it's like it's duty free, right? And then going back to Brazil and reselling it, and they would be able to pay for the ticket and everything and still make some bucks, you know. It's like,
oh, actually, they still do that. I used to live in Miami.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, I moved I moved to LA 2 months ago.
Oh, okay. Yeah, like
they still do that.
The duty-free stuff, right?
Yeah, sometimes it's still worth it, but it's not always as our currencies now, you know. The economy in Brazil is almost fucked up.
Yeah,
so,
like the prices are so inflated over there.
Oh man,
our currency is real, and $1 is costing almost $6 right now. So
oh yeah,
6 reais right now. So it's very, very weird. But there are still things that are still worth it, like the RTX 3090. It costs $2,000. Yeah, I guess it's $2,000, and in Brazil it costs like 20,000 reais. So it's weird. It's weird.
Yeah, man. Yeah. Well, coming from Brazil, man, that was always paid for, you know. It's like to be able to. I used to go like as a teenager. I used to go to Paraguay to be able to buy stuff because I lived in the south of Brazil, in Rio Grande do Sul, and we would take a bus. It was like 14 hours in a bus, and then travel overnight and get there in the morning, then buy stuff. For example, like I got my Amiga computer in there, and then we would have to pray that someone would not, like, you know, stop the bus and take your stuff away, right? So you would get lucky. So I remember like the only way for me to start doing any computer graphics back in the day was by going to Paraguay and buying cheap stuff, you know, because the price in Brazil, the taxes are like insane. A TV that costs $1,000 in the United States, you're probably gonna pay around like at least 6 times that, or maybe like even 10 times that, you know?
Yeah, it's still the same, Chris. Still the same. I live close to Porto Alegre, and it's still the same.
Oh man, yeah, yeah, it's fucked.
Except for that, there's 2 last stuff that worth to buy in Paraguay. So, well, we're going through hard times around here.
Yeah, man. Yeah, I totally get it. Like, I remember, like, for this class, I did a class that was in Portuguese a couple of months ago, and then I actually ran a promotion and I cut the price in half to try to help people because they simply could not afford anything. It's like the dollar was like 6 to 1. I was like, holy crap. Yeah. And anyway.
Yeah, man, still the same.
Yeah, it's crazy. All right, guys, I'm gonna stop this for now. Like this, you know, the stage I am at right now, and then I'm gonna just like save this recording of this whole thing. I hope it's recording. It would be really bad if it didn't record anything. And then post there for you guys. And then this is gonna be posted as a time lapse. It's gonna be in the class in there. Let me just show you where it is gonna populate for you. But you probably are aware where it is, but just in case. So basically this, you're gonna be, if you go to your fly on the wall in there, this is a reminder, right? So if you go to your all courses in there, under your my courses, you should be able to see what's going on in there. Or even like if you go to all courses and individual courses, you should see the fly on the wall live. And then this video from today is going to be posted in the week 1, and then I'm probably going to adapt the text in here because this is all placeholds anyway. And then I'm going to post the video is going to be right here, and then the time lapse is going to be posted right here. So you should have access to it in about, like, I would say like 2.5 hours from now, something like that. Because like in the past it would be fast, man. I would just finish this and just drag and drop the file. It would be done, you know. But nowadays, because of the piracy that happened, I'm paying for this how you call, like not a provider, like a host, and they actually encrypt the whole thing, you know. It's like, so there's encryption and there's like dynamic watermark, so there's all kinds of stuff in there to try to prevent some of this, you know. And it's actually being very helpful. I mean, like there's one of my classes leaked like last October, and then since I implemented this thing, I didn't see any other one leaking from that point on. So you know, so any of the new ones so far are safe, but you never know. People find ways, you know. It's like if they want to pirate it, they're going to pirate it. But that's the problem about, you know, you guys who are doing the right thing, like end up like paying because it takes more time, you know, it takes longer for me to process things now. And instead of having that clean view that was before, you know, it's like no watermarks or anything. Now there's all this thing popping here and there, you know. It's like, I hate that stuff, but unfortunately it's necessary, you know. Yeah. But guys, I hope you appreciate it today. I mean, like it was a little bit chaotic with this whole freaking thing here with Zoom. I'm gonna have to try to contact them and see what's going on. And but yeah, let's hope that tomorrow everything is gonna get a little bit smoother than it was today, you know.
We're gonna sort it out.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, guys.
Don't worry.
Yeah, man.
Thank you,
It's
sir.
great.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Have a great one.
You too.
All right. You have a good night.
Bye-bye.
Take care, everyone.
you.
Bye.
Good night, guys.
Take care, sir.
Bye.
Good night.
Good night.